Ladies and gentlemen, here he is. Woo! The sensation, Jason Gabon!
Danmark har fået en ny verdensmester. Mikkel Kessler. He's the fucking champion of the world. Mikkel, man.
Edition of the Boxing Asylum Nuthouse podcast brought to you by boxingasylum.com. I'm your host Andy Patterson. Got a full panel this week. I've got Alex Morris, Paul Webb, Steve Wellens, Kurt Ward, Adam Smith and Donny Baseball. Now, some people were asking, what fight we're going to start with. I'm thinking we're going to start with the best fight of the night. We did mention it last week. It was probably going to be the most competitive fight of the night. David Lemieux against Hassan Nandam for the IBF middleweight title. Now, very, very good fight. Potentially fight of the year candidate. If you haven't seen it, guys, get round and see it on YouTube. It is available. Lemieux came out very quick. He was pushing Nandam back, who was relying a lot on good lateral movement. But one thing that Lemieux had going from last night is he just could not miss with a left hook throughout the fight. You know, if you look at the first round knockdown, second round knockdown, it looked like that Nandam's just whole spirit and being left. I don't know what it is with this guy. Whenever he gets dropped, it's like his life just ends and he gets up and he just gets back on with it again. I mean, he was really on the brink there in the second round. He showed some heart to kind of defend himself and done brilliantly to survive the round. But if you're watching Nandam for the first time, then I think you'd be slightly surprised about his resiliency last night and recovery powers. Now, if you look at the scorecards, I mean, obviously, again, these knockdowns are really kind of shafting Nandam really to get these big wins. I had it quite tight in the scorecards, which some people are now disputing, but I had it 113-111 to Lemieux. I think, in all honesty, I think maybe I gave Lemieux, with knockdown rounds aside, I think I maybe gave him maybe 2 rounds, I think. But compare and contrast for a minute here, guys. You know, we'll get to that little walking abortion, Adrien Kloner, in a little bit. But let's contrast a little bit here, that Kloner apparently earned $1.3 million there last night. Hassan Nandam apparently only made $100,000 for his fight. Now, can take off Gary Hyde's percentage, trainer's percentage, tax. He'd be lucky if he walked home with $20,000, if that. Maybe even fighting for free there last night. Kurt, how did you see the scores, mate? Did you score that fight last night?
Yeah, I watched it live and I scored it. I think in rounds I had it 115, 113, but obviously the knockdowns made it not close at all on the cards. I just thought it was the same as the Quillen fight. The rounds that Nandam stayed on his feet in, he done really well in. I mean, he's a really good boxer. He moves around the ring so well. He makes the opponent miss a lot. It's just that his chin's weird because, it's hard to call him chinny because he goes down, but within 10 seconds he's back fighting as if nothing's happened. It reminds me of like a Matthew Saad Mohammed, Evander Holyfield type, where they look like they're gone, they're badly hurt, and then they're just back fighting. other guys get hit on the chin with a big shot and they're totally gone. And he's got amazing recuperative powers, but it's just a shame because in his two biggest fights, the knockdowns have, been his downfall. And it's just a shame because he's such a good boxer. And I thought he'd beat Lemieux. I thought, he'd outbox him in most of the rounds and win a decision. But the danger was always there of him going down and being in trouble. And to be honest, I think in the second round he was as close to being stopped as I saw him because Lemieux was just wailing away at him, rocking his head back with big shots. And I think Marlon Wright, who gets a lot of criticism and rightly so for some of his performances in the past, he looked like he was going to step in and then change his mind. And it's he did a good job in the end because he gave Endam all the chance, and Endam proved that he was still in the fight. And as I was watching it live and it was going 7-8 rounds, I still felt. And it's weird to say, despite him being knocked down 4 times, I still felt that he was in the fight. And, the last couple of rounds he maybe stop Lemieux because Lemieux showed stamina issues before. But fair play to Lemieux. I mean, he showed his power. He was aggressive throughout, and his stamina held up. I just don't think Endam targeted the body enough. That was his downfall, I think, because Lemieux's gas tank wasn't really tested because he could really do what he wanted for most of the round. But a really good fight, and we got to just give credit to Endam because the guy is just, his heart is second to none in the sport.
No, I can see the similarities with Matthew Sid Muhammad, as Kurt mentioned there, Donny. Lofty praise, I don't think so. I think he showed the character of a true champion there last night. But as Kurt says, fair play to Lemieux. He's shown a little bit more stamina as well, but I did think he was hurt in the 6th round, and then he's definitely hurt in the 12th round. I thought he dipped those legs a couple of times, I felt. But, fair play to Lemieux. He did what he had to do, but he just could not miss with that left hook. But would you like to see a rematch?
I would love to see a rematch. I don't know if Lemieux's camp would like to see a rematch, but as a fan, I sure would like to see a rematch. I thought that Lemieux won the fight. I thought it was close. There was some debate about the scoring of that. What was the round that some people wanted to score 10? I think it was
the 7th round. I think it was the 7th round. I think some people scored at 9-9. I scored it personally 10-8 to Lemieux.
Yeah, in my opinion, as I've always said, and the way boxing's traditionally scored is that if you knock somebody down, you've won the round on the basis of the fact that you've done them. You've landed the most significant shot, even if that is only one shot. And at the very least, I think you could say, okay, well, some good work, not a lot of work by Lemieux. Okay, you could say it's almost like an even round, and then you give it to Lemieux 10-9 on the basis of the knockdown. But a 9-9 round in my mind is, I just don't think that represents what happened in the round. It wasn't even. Somebody was hurt, and they were hurt bad, and that's why they went down. But I would love to see a rematch. And I think also you say that Endam only earned $100,000 for that fight last night or whatever it was, but I think he definitely upped his exposure stateside, and I think that there will be more good fights for him to come because the good thing about the middleweight division right now is that everybody in it is pretty much looking for fights. Of course, the top of that division in terms of talent is Golovkin. The top of that division in terms of money-generating power is Cotto. But, you're going to get guys that are going to fight each other. I'd like to see Endam take on Turiano Johnson, and maybe the winner of that could get Golovkin. I'd like to see Golovkin-Lemieux, but I don't think we will because, Golden Boy right now is basically being propped up by 2 money-generating stars, which are Canelo Alvarez and David Lemieux. And Golovkin is kind of a thorn in their side that's looming and potentially could take out both and completely, devastate Golden Boy Promotions. So I think that both of them are going to avoid him for at least the time being, and maybe we'll see something in the future. But there's a lot of good action fights to be made at middleweight, and Endam is right there in the mix.
Definitely. Steve, what do you think it is with Endam's chin? I really don't know if he's got a bad chin or if it's a good chin or whatever it is. It's definitely a fucking enigma anyway, put it that way. Do you think it's just maybe like a balance problem or, I really don't know what it is. Does he just get caught too square on?
Yeah, I don't have the answer, Andy. I think me and Paul were talking about this on last week's pod. I don't know whether he has a bad chin or a good chin, but he seems to get dropped, he looks hurt, then he springs straight back up again and he seems fine. I mean, I'd say his powers of recovery, and it's just his natural fitness. I mean, look at the guy, he's completely chiselled. There's definitely, I think it's a balance thing. He takes the shots too flush. He couldn't avoid the left hook for a start. If you were having those left hooks slamming home on you all night, you're going to end up going down. I think he just has amazing powers of recovery whenever he gets back up again. We know that Lemieux is a rocket puncher, and if he's sticking you down once, a lot of guys wouldn't get up. But the fact that Dan was going up 4 times last night, it was just amazing. But I was actually impressed with Lemieux. His all-round game was a little bit better. I know that he faded down the stretch, but he's shown now that his skills have improved a little bit over time, I think, especially since he lost to Rubio. I mean, he's still wild, don't get me wrong, especially with the right hand, but who cares? He's an exciting guy. He's a little bit better of a boxer, but he punches so hard, you've got to give him a chance against anybody, and for that reason, I'd be happy seeing him fight the likes of a Golovkin. And for Ndam as well, I'd be happy seeing him back on the world scene. I mean, it was just a totally bizarre fight last night. It was a great fight, but it was one-sided in one aspect, and it was extremely competitive in the other. And it was really just like the Quillin fight. It was close on the cards, and the knockdowns were the difference. And the final thing I'll say is, I think Kurt mentioned it actually, whenever the telecast started and I saw Marlon Wright in the middle in the ring, I was a little bit concerned. I really was concerned, because I recall his dubious officiating in the Lucian Butte, Librajo Andrade first fight. I don't know if you remember that one, but Marlon Wright was all over the place that night, but he seems a better referee now, and I thought he did a very good job. But as for Ndam, I think he can come again, and a couple of guys might be taking a look at him and thinking, he's a credible name, I can get him on my record, he'll be a credible defence, but if you land on the chin, he's going to go down. He'll get back up again, but at least you'll be able to beat him, so I can see him getting more work. But as for Lemieux, very impressed. You know, we didn't see much more than we knew he already had, but he's such a heavy puncher, such an exciting fighter. I definitely want to see more of Lemieux.
I mean, Ndam will get other chances. Let's just hope he actually gets better paydays as a result of it as well. Paul, you heard Steve mention there about, you know, he thinks he's seen improvements in Lemieux. Now, I don't know if I probably fully agree with that. What I will say is his stamina certainly improved. Maybe the jab's slightly working better as well. I think the other thing is, though, is that he was missing a hell of a lot of shots there last night. And some people need to remember as well is that not everything he threw at Lemieux when he did manage to get it on him was some of those punches were blocked.
Yeah, I mean, he's the kind of fighter who does throw a lot and he will waste some shots. I mean, I think whether he's improved or not is up for debate, but I thought the shots that he did actually catch him with and put him down with were heavy, hard shots, and that's why we're talking about how good Ndam's recovery was, because he did really get caught square on, and when Lemieux had him in position in the middle of the ring, he wasn't just relying on trying to get him on the ropes to hurt him, he was actually catching him square in the middle of the ring, which is always good to see. I think he is the kind of fighter, though. He's exciting to watch, but there is a lot of flaws there. And I think that if you're a Gennady Golovkin or someone of that ilk, you're looking at him as going, he will make for an exciting fight, but he'll beat him easily, because defensively he still has lapses, and he did give rounds away last night. I mean, in a fight where you put the bloke down, was it 4 times in total in the end? You think you should have run away with that on the scorecards, but he let it get so close because he got outboxed at times, and he still has a lot to work on. But obviously there isn't much time to do that now, and he will be in a huge fight next. But you just got to think that Golden Boy will keep him away from the Triple G problem, because I think it's going to be a real poor matchup for him. I think he would struggle, despite the amount of money he's going to make. It's going to be a bad fight for him. But I think he has improved a little bit, but we've not seen. That was the toughest fight he's had. I mean, he's been fighting guys like Gabe Rosado and Torres and limited opponents since he had. Obviously, a couple of poor performances, but I think he's just got a lot to work on. I still think he does. From what I've seen, I didn't see the whole fight. I've seen highlights of the rounds. I wasn't overly impressed with him. A lot of people hurt him down.
I don't know if Alex is back. I think he had to pop away there, but in all honesty, I don't see what Lemieux has got apart from power. Because the only way he can get shots off is if he comes forward. I don't see how he can throw heavy shots on the back foot. He comes back in straight lines, he's got his hands up all the time. I just don't think he would be able to cope with the pressure that Golovkin would put on him, and I think Golovkin would ice him probably within 3 to 4 rounds. Yeah,
listen, I mean, I remember Lemieux from years back when he was like still undefeated, and he was really being hyped as this this heavy hitter, this prospect from Montreal. And he fought an Abraham opponent and sparked him in 1 round. And this guy went like 10 rounds or 11 rounds with Abraham when he was a middleweight, and when he could hit. And that's when I first really noticed him. But the guy's a typical big puncher. He doesn't like it when he's hit back by a puncher. Rubio showed that he couldn't handle it, and he's been packaged since that loss, and also the last LC. He's going with Rosado, who, let's be honest, Rosado's the guy you look good against because he walks and eats shots and he bleeds and he makes you look good. And then he's gone in against Endam, who, like I said, I really rate the guy as a boxer, but Peter Quillin showed that Endam can be got to, and Peter Quillin done exactly the same kind of thing in reality. He put him down about 6 times, though. And we've all saw how limited Peter Quillin is. So I just think, people are hyping this Golovkin fight because on paper it looks a really good fight. When you've got 2 guys who can lay anyone out cold, fans are going to be interested. But in reality, you've got someone like David Lemieux, who only knows how to fight one way, and that's coming forward. He's going to walk straight into Golovkin, and I know who's going to win that battle, and it's going to be quick.
Yeah, I can see it being quick as well, in all honesty. Alex, you back, mate? No, I'm going to go Alex. I really don't know. Steve, what do you think Gary Hyde will do in Ndam next? Obviously, he's going to need some time off away for the sport for maybe a couple of months or whatever, but do you think he'll still try and build his career in America, or do you think he'll maybe move him back to Ireland, or maybe take him back to France?
I think he'll probably do the same as he's already doing. He'll try and build him back up the rankings, maybe try and build him back up with whichever governing body he sees fit, and try and get him like an intercontinental or something and do it that way. That's if Ndam even stays with him, I don't know. Ndam might see his future elsewhere. I don't know what the contractual agreements are, but I'd say Gary Hyde will get him a few more paydays, and I wouldn't be surprised if within 2 or 3 fights' time he's back fighting in and around sort of world title level again. So I don't think if I was Gary I'd be washing my hands of him. He'll have a couple of fights in France, I'd say, maybe bring him to Ireland and then get him back in for a world title shot or an interim title or something like that.
I mean, I personally think you got these 3 guys that are really, really close to being legit challengers for Golovkin. You have Hyland, Ndam, Andy Lee, and also who's the other guy? Toriano Johnson. I'd like to see some combination of those guys square off to fight Golovkin, and I think that the winner of any one of those pairings would be a legit challenger.
Okay.
I think it's an indictment though of how poor the middleweight division is. I mean, it's so
thin.
shallow. It's so shallow at the moment that literally you're looking at guys who are sort of fringe contender level, like Ndam, and they're top 10 guys at the moment. You take away obviously the big, Cotto's there. You take away Golovkin and even Andy Lee. I mean, Andy Lee and Quillin are probably ranked 2nd and 3rd in the division if you take Cotto out of it, and they've proved how limited they are. I think it's such a poor division at the moment, which is a shame, really, because middleweight
they're actually pretty good and pretty underrated. Like Toriano Johnson, as I've been saying over and over again. I mean, that guy's actually really good. I mean, he beat the crap out of Curtis Stevens. I was at that fight for essentially what was that, a 10 or 12 fight? He beat him for basically every single minute, every single round, and then he just got knocked out at the end. But I mean, Toriano Johnson's a legit fighter, and I think with one more win, I think that's a really good fight for Golovkin. And the thing is that he doesn't have a major promoter. I mean, I know Gary Shaw's been around forever, but I'm just saying he just doesn't have the hype that some of these other guys have. He doesn't have the fan base and stuff. We get all hyped up for Golovkin versus Canelo. That's a fight that I think Golovkin wins. And the only reason why we're hyped for it is because Golovkin's this big pay-per-view star. But really, I think, Toriano Johnson brings a lot to the table, too. It's just that he doesn't have the hype, so we won't get as excited for it. But, I mean, there are a lot of guys out there who just, for their own obscurity, the fact that they haven't fought a lot of guys, like we say, the middleweight division is weak. But really, I think there's a lot of guys out there that are actually pretty decent fighters. They just don't get the hype that they should.
Alex, you want to round this off, mate, before we move on to the next fight?
I've not really got much to add, really. I just thought it was an excellent fight. I think that Lemieux is obviously extremely powerful, but he's obviously very limited at the same time. And, against Golovkin, I think it's a step up too much. But someone like, obviously, Toriano Johnson would be a good fight, as Tony keeps mentioning. And Andy Lee as well would be a very good fight. Look at a possible unification if Andy Lee gets past Billy Joe Saunders.
I just think with Golovkin, he's just got to bide his time. Middleweight division has been poor before. Look at someone like Marvin Hagler, who had to defend against Hamsho and Caveman Lee and Tony Simpson before he got the fight with Roberto Duran. Look at Bernard Hopkins is the best example. Look, he had to fight against guys twice, 3 times, crap fights, look upon now, until he got the Tito Trinidad fight and became, a much bigger star and a much bigger name. So eventually, someone will take on the challenge. I don't know if someone like an Andre Ward is the type of challenge they want. They'd rather a bigger star, but, I just think he's got to keep, the good thing about him is he's active. He's not fighting twice a year. He's just got to keep fighting 3-4 times a year. And eventually, as history's shown, the big fight will be there, and then it's up to him to show the world that, he's as good as what a lot of the fans think.
On that undercard, Thierry Jean had a 10-round decision victory over Jerry Montes. I think the guy who got stalked off, Kevin Mitchell at Wembley, he had a second-round knockout victory over Michela Foxa. Now, on to the other card at the MGM Grand, it was brought to us by the wonderful PBC. We had some really good laughs, actually. I mean, I was actually watching this fight. I think it must have been around about the 8th or 9th round, just when I knew that at that point that the guy couldn't get robbed, or at least he shouldn't get robbed anyway. I was smiling just watching this guy, this supposed next superstar of the sport, the heir to the throne of Floyd Mayweather, age-ridden, no problem cloner. This motherfucker, it was so great to see him getting owned there last night. Fucking tremendous. I mean, if it wasn't for the 12th round, I think I would only have gave Cloner 1 round. It was a complete and utter domination I felt from Sean Porter last night. 117-109 on my scorecard. It was kind of cagey opening start, I felt, but Broner's counter-punching skills, man, they are fucking awful. I mean, he was just constantly trying to catch Porter as he came in with a left hook. He was pushing him off, and the referee should have really got a hold of him way before that point induction came off. When was that again? Was it the 11th round? I think they took the point off Cloner, I think it was. But either way, final scorecards 114-112 is an absolute joke. 115-111 and 118-108 all to Sean Porter. It's good to see. I did think that the 144 catch was going to. I did mention last week I didn't want to make a prediction until I seen Porter on the scales. I thought he looked tremendous on the scales. Actually, he's obviously cooked the weight pretty good. If anything, I would believe Cloner had the problem trying to make weight. I mean, this guy we've discussed it before. He just doesn't live the life. He's probably had to drain himself to make 143.5 or whatever it was, and then the rehydration clause being lifted, which was good to see. And Porter obviously doing the business, bull rushing at times, and even hurting Cloner, which was a bit unfortunate. He got caught, maybe concentration level dipped in the 12th round. But Alex, Adam, I'll go to you first, mate. You've been hanging on there. Absolutely tremendous to see Cloner getting schooled there from Porter last night, wasn't it?
Oh, it's highly satisfying. It was just an embarrassment, to be honest. A complete embarrassment. It was a 50-50 fight with my friends, the bookmakers. There was a lot, again, made of the weight. I'm sick of hearing about weights, to be honest. Miss weights, catch weights, bored. He didn't establish any rhythm throughout. He didn't jab until about the 5th round. I don't think he threw a right until the 4th round. I think he threw a couple in that round. He was trying the Mayweather check hook kind of thing of the counter all night long, and that's what actually landed in the 12th. And it wasn't any different to what he was doing all night. It wasn't thrown with any more urgency than in the 1st or 2nd round. But it just, Porter walked straight on and downed him. I think I gave Broner 3 rounds. Got point deduction, should have come a lot earlier. There's just no substance to what he does. But really, I think we have to give him some backhanded credit, because he performs like an idiot, poorly, but still talks like he's better than Floyd Mayweather. It's brilliant, really, that he's must have some balls to continue to speak the way he does, despite not backing it up in the ring at all.
Well, exactly, mate. Would I just read this quote? I think this was said in the ring after the fight. I'm okay, my kids are okay, I'm financially okay. Aye, right, okay, dickhead. Nothing surprised me. At the end of the day, great champions can take a loss, just like they take a good win. You can still have dinner, I'll take his girl out and everything. I'll still fight anybody, it don't matter, I'm a real animal. I came to fight today and I didn't get a decision. You didn't come to fight, you came to hold and just basically fraud your way through that entire fight. Donnie, you've got a conspiracy theory here, haven't you, mate?
I do.
What is it?
So,
you try to think that Heyman's cashing out on this fraud?
Well, perhaps so, but my theory is this. Al Heyman likes money, and as do all boxing promoters, but anyways, I don't know if you know this, but there's this like clause in Floyd Mayweather's contract that allows Al Heyman basically a lot of the good seats to all of his fights have to actually be sold to Heyman Sports, and they put them on StubHub or any of these other secondary marketing ticket websites, and they sell them at an incredible, premium, right? 1,000% or whatever it might be. And this was how Al Heyman made millions and millions of dollars off of the Oscar De La Hoya and Ricky Hatton fights versus Mayweather. He made a ton of money off of those, just from ticket resales. We're talking millions of dollars for ringside seats and, thereabouts. So anyways, I'm thinking to myself, Al Heyman knew that he was going to basically just nix the rehydration clause. That only came out as information yesterday, and I think Adam...
For us before the fight, I think Kenny Porter claimed that he had a phone call from Heyman and they promised him that there was no rehydration clause.
And there was none. They didn't have a second weigh-in. And Al Heyman knew this a long time ago when the fight went up on the betting markets internationally and in Las Vegas. All right? And I think once you knew that rehydration clause wasn't there, I think Porter was the clear pick. I think I would have easily picked Porter, but I didn't know that rehydration clause wasn't going to be enforced. I think Al Heyman maybe have cashed out last night, not just in terms of matching Broner with Porter, but also potentially maybe through some shadow people or whatever. But he may have cashed out on the betting as well, because I think that those odds reflected the theory that it was a 50-50 fight based on the rehydration clause. I think once you take that out, I think it was no longer a 50-50 fight, and I actually would have favored Porter. And so I think, I think some people could have made some money last night off of that if they knew that rehydration clause wasn't in place.
Damn. The Americans and your conspiracy theories.
Yeah, Matty would be proud of that.
Matty would be proud of that. But let me say this, though. If Adrien Broner wants to rename himself, I think he should rename himself 2+2. Because you know what? This problem seems to be easily solved by anyone. And I think that every time Adrien Broner steps up, you know what's coming now. He's going to get another B-plus opponent or whatever, and he's going to keep fighting these B fighters. He'll step up again and he'll lose.
He is a B fighter. Let's be real here. He is a B fighter.
He's a B-plus fighter, because when he fights B fighters, he wins. But when he steps up, he loses. And I think that's why he ducked Khan. I thought he had a better chance in this fight, and he didn't take Khan, so he fought Porter instead and thought he might get the benefit of the doubt on the scorecards. And indeed, it seems he did. Some of these scorecards were way too close. But at the end of the day, even judges who were trying to help him couldn't help him because he lost that badly.
Now, one guy I know has been sitting up since 10 o'clock this morning with his headset on in front of his computer, waiting to get on this podcast to speak about AB, about bankruptcy. Paul, you've been patiently waiting, mate. Give me your take on Cloner. Pathetic last night.
Oh, he was absolutely terrible. I mean, he did... I picked him to win the fight based on the fact that if you look at pure talent for talent, Adrien Broner is a very, very good fighter. We saw him move up, won world titles in 3 different weight classes. That's still a hell of an achievement. But the warning signs had been there in previous fights. There was question marks behind, obviously, how hard he was training for them or not. He was getting caught way too much by the likes of Malignaggi. Even Gavin Rees caught him a couple of times in that fight. And I thought, last night he's up against someone in Sean Porter who is... He hits hard, but he's quite a crude fighter. He doesn't do any one thing particularly well. I thought it was a fight that was made for Broner to come and look good. And he was absolutely abysmal. The knockdown aside, and it looked like Sean Porter wasn't even ready for the round to start, because that knockdown came within a couple of seconds. What did he get out of that last night? He's gone from the guy talking about billions and how he's going to be the Floyd Mayweather clone, and he's now saying, I'm financially okay. I mean, that's the state that he's put himself in now. And he's such a frustrator. Like I said, if he didn't have the talent, he didn't have the ability, you could just say, okay, he's just a loudmouth guy. But he clearly has that. He was just absolutely terrible last night, offered nothing. And he's not a welterweight. There's no evidence in his career or his size that makes me think he should be in that division anyway. He's jumped up to that division because he thinks he's chasing money. And Adrien Broner is the first casualty of what I call the Mayweather clone. So it's fighters that grew up in the 2000s when Mayweather's personality was being manufactured, and he thought, you know what, if I come out and be brash, be annoying, say things that I shouldn't, people are going to hate me, but they're going to pay to watch. The difference is he doesn't have any of the charisma that Mayweather had, and everyone hates him. So people aren't paying to see him lose. People just don't want to see him. And that fight last night is just putting him back miles. But because he's so entrenched in the whole Heyman situation, he'll probably get a decent fight. But will he step back down to 140? I don't think he'll be bothered. I think he'll wait to fight an Andre Berto or someone else at 147. But the fans have spoken now. We don't want fights like this. We don't like fighters like this. You can't copy what someone else has done. He's a repugnant, disgusting, horrible human being, and hopefully that's the last we see of him in any big fight. Unfortunately, I doubt it will.
Yeah, I mean, the fact is he doesn't live the life. Cloner's just going to be sucked out, fucked out, drugged out, looking for a handout in about 10 years' time. And I'll tell you another thing, he's going to be doing what Riddick Bowe's doing just now, actually selling autograph pictures for £20 a skull, and then think back to the time that he flushed those Benjamins down the shitter in Popeye Joe's or whatever the fuck it was called. You know, just wishing he could actually go back in time and take that money back and stuff.
That was 5 kids down now.
Oh, 5 kids, you know, child support payments and stuff like that as well. You know, Kenny P really got under his skin there. Kurt, that was a glorious night. Did you rejoice last night, mate?
Yeah, I enjoyed it. I mean, I picked Porter from the start. I said, you know, with the catch weight, rehydration clause, I thought Porter had a bad style for him. I thought Porter was going to bring it. Too much volume and too much pressure. You know, Broner can make out he's Floyd 2.0, but he's really not. He's as flat-footed as they come. He's got a wide stance. He just doesn't move. He stands right in front. Maidana showed that. When he was at super feather and lightweight, he could bully these guys because he was putting on a lot of weight. You know, he was so much bigger than them. Since he left lightweight, he's beaten Paulie Malignaggi, you know, who obviously he's not very strong at the weight, doesn't punch very hard. Maidana and Porter have come in at like middleweights in the ring. Both of them are exactly 161 pounds, and they've both bullied him, to be honest. I mean, Porter's bodywork from the opening bow, I didn't know if the judges were going to give him the fight, to be honest, because I thought, you know, a lot of his punches were to the body and it was very sloppy. Broner was clinching every single chance he got, and you know, it's like, what else did he offer, really? I mean, he didn't offer nothing. He's a very lazy fighter. He doesn't fight for 3 minutes of a round. Even when he knows himself that he's behind in a fight, he doesn't really go for it. It's only in the last round he really tried, and same with the Maidana fight, I thought. It was only the last couple of rounds when he really went for it. It's like, I don't know if he's worried about his stamina, I'm not really sure, but, you know, he's so overrated, it's untrue, and this whole Mayweather thing, or, you know, you can go all the way back to young Cassius Clay, you know, this whole thing of, you know, I'm so great, you know, you can't beat me and all that. That stick loses everything as soon as you've lost. You know, Floyd Mayweather can still use it because no one's seen him defeated. Broner's lost twice now, and, you know, why do people care anymore? I mean, even when he lost to Maidana, you could say, well, you know what, Broner's still a good guy to watch in the ring. You might hate him, you might want him to get beaten up, but he's an entertaining fighter and he puts on good performances. Last night, after seeing that, why do you care about seeing Adrien Broner again? He offers nothing, and, you know, as someone said, he'll be going in against guys who are overmatched for a while. As soon as he goes in against a legit guy again, someone who's as big as him or bigger than him who can punch, he's going to be in a world of trouble again. And I think, you know, he's had a great career for his talent, in my opinion. You know, he's used his mouth a lot, and some of his paydays, you've got to take your hat off to him because, like we said earlier, someone like Endam, who puts it all on the line and gives absolutely everything, he's earning a fraction of what this guy's getting to do what? You know, pose, hold, and then talk shit after a fight and get his hair brushed. I mean, that's about it.
Steve, is Broner done at elite level, do you think, mate?
Well, he's not far off done. I think the answer is probably yes, to be honest, Andy. I've always been a bit of a defender of Broner. I obviously abhor, you know, I hate his attitude. I think he's an absolute horrible human being, like Paul says, but just felt there was talent there. You know, I liked what I saw at the lower weights. I saw the ability, but I mean, he's just wasted the talent. I think he's overestimated his own talent, actually. Like, you know, Donny says he's a B+ fighter. I would agree with that, but he's not an A-star fighter. And he has the Floyd in the ring antics, he has the Floyd walk into the ring antics, but he doesn't obviously have the work ethic away from the ring. He doesn't train anywhere near as hard as what Floyd does, and that's his downfall. And I think that he needs a new coach for a start. I don't think Mike Stafford and all these other guys are, putting the firework up his arse that he needs. His diet is completely poor. He gets too heavy between fights. He's only a young guy, so he's got the sort of youth. The fact that he's a young guy, he can get the weight off quickly. But the more he blows up between fights, the likes of Ricky Hatton showed the same thing. It will start to affect him, and it is affecting him late on in the fights as well, because he just gets so heavy. He's trying all these catchweight shenanigans, trying to drain people down. It's just, everything about him is just disgusting. And I think his confidence, personally, is absolutely shot to shit. Despite the mask that he puts on, I think he is a guy who is completely devoid. He's shot of all confidence. He has no confidence in his ability. He has no confidence in what he's doing in the ring. He's just reeling off a narrative, the same, the can man, and all this speech after every fight. He knows what he's going to say. It's all a complete facade.
Yeah.
He has no confidence whatsoever. He's a broken man, I think, because the air of invincibility, that the bubble that he put around himself has just been popped, and he doesn't know what's left. But I mean, as for the fight itself now, also, I know we're talking a lot about Broner, but I'll say fair play to Porter. I picked Broner to win beforehand, but I thought Porter was actually quite smart, because he continuously made Broner lead off, and he did head rush now and again, but he didn't head rush in as often as I thought he would, and he wasn't quite as reckless as he was in recent fights. I thought he stood off a lot of the time and made Broner lead, which just made Broner's flat-footedness look even worse. And it could be that the Brook loss has maybe given Porter a little bit of a wake-up call, and he could become a better fighter than if he hadn't lost to Brook. But just finishing off on Broner, again, like Kurt says, everything about him that you would have watched, at least you could have said, it'd be a decent fight if you see Adrien Broner. He was at least entertaining, he had the skills. He's not entertaining anymore, so what does he bring to the table? I mean, he threw two punches in a combination early on last night.
Was beating to the jab there last night, mate.
He barely threw two punches around at the end. I mean, there was no output from him. He was holding, he was grabbing. There was no substance, there was no accuracy. He was just so poor on every level. And he won't move down in weight. In fact, if anything, he'll move up. And I can see him at middleweight in 4 or 5 fights time.
Yeah, first of all,
Steve sounds like he wants a Golovkin fight.
Yeah.
But my thing is, first of all, he should move back down to the lower weights, because he's not really... I mean, what's the reason he asked for the catchweight for? Yeah, it was to drain...
Because he was too fucking fat to get down at the weight in the first place.
Well, that too, yeah, but he doesn't really belong at welterweight, and I think we all know that. Even if we hate the guy, I think we can all admit that he should be at 135 or 140. But in addition to that, I mean, the thing is, he wowed everybody because he was able to rehydrate a lot, and he was able to beat down people at 135 or 140. But when up to 147... where he doesn't belong, he's been exposed. But I think if he went back down there, he'd actually do well, and I think he'd beat a lot of people down at those weights. But he can't seem to do it, because maybe he's lazy and he doesn't want to train, or maybe it's just that, the money is at 147, and it might be that there's more money in losing at 147 than there is at winning at 140. And I think that might be why he's up there. But I still think that people will enjoy seeing him lose. I think he has to lose a lot more fights before people get tired of seeing him lose, because they just hate him. And all the comments on this podcast seemingly reaffirm that belief.
Backs it up. Yeah, I mean, before I bring Adam in, it has been quite remiss of us not to kind of give Porter more credit, because we seem to be speaking a wee bit too much about Cloner. But before I do bring Adam in on that point, Alex is raging in the background. I'm assuming he's got something finally to say about Cloner. Alex, take it away, mate.
Well, what can we really say about Adrien Broner? I mean, he's an absolute bellend to start with. After his performance last night and his last few performances, we can call him an average boxer as well. Really, he's just a complete waste of space to me, to be honest. His last successful performance was,
Gavin Rees, his last knockout.
Oh, Gavin Rees.
Knockout.
Yeah, that was his last knockout. I mean, I imagine he's also smashed up some grannies since then, because he's a worthless piece of shit. Last night just really solidified why so many of us thought that he was just an absolute hype job. We saw the cracks early on in his career. I forget the name of the guy that he robbed, shall I say. Then obviously he had the Ponce de Leon fight, which he lost there.
Quintana or something like that.
Yes,
His name was Quintana or Quintero or something.
Carlos Quintana or something like that.
It was it was a 6-rounder or an 8-rounder, I think it was. Yeah.
And then again we saw the Malignaggi fight. He looked piss poor in that. That's when he first stepped up the weight. And then obviously the Maidana beatdown was fucking glorious. Then he had those really shit fights interim between now and Porter, and again he just looked absolutely average. He looked exactly as he did last night, throwing out one-punch pot shots, doing his little shoulder roll, his little shake of the head that mimics Floyd, throwing a lead right hand, thinking he's better than he actually is. But I agree fully with Steve that his confidence is completely gone. And he can't take a punch anymore. Porter had him wobbling a few times when he was pushed up back against the ropes. He was running for his fucking life. He held on for dear life at various times.
10th round he was hanging on for life.
Yeah.
He was badly hurt in the 10th round. He was hanging on for dear life.
Yeah, first round as well. At the end of the first round he is wobbling. Again, he's taking a note from his little mentor / boyfriend / bum buddy. Floyd in the elbows and the forearm smashes, blatant forearms and fouling that Tony Weeks just seemed to completely ignore until late on when it really didn't matter. And then, he's just proven that he's completely average. He doesn't do anything really well. I mean, he's got slightly fast hands. He's good at throwing fast punches, but what use is that when all he does is throw single punches? He doesn't put his punches together well. He's absolutely flat-footed. He gets he can't, outwork. He can't use footwork against Maidana, for fuck's sake. Maidana's got better footwork than this cunt. His chin's, like I said, he used to have quite a good chin, but I think that's cracked now. I think he's scared. I think that he's got no boxing IQ. He just thinks that if he carries on doing what he wants and, you can't bully anymore. He just holds and he pot shots. He thinks he'll win. And he didn't even seem bothered that he lost last night. He was smiling away. He's, shit happens. I've got my money for my kids. He's just there for a laugh. He doesn't give a fuck. And he'll continue like that because he's a spoilt, rotten, horrible little bastard. And I hope he gets fucking hit by a car. Before
I bring Adam in there, actually, in fact, I'll bring in the new Adam. Porter, he did have that flash knockdown, shall we say, in the 12th round. I think he ate it up. He just got up off it. I don't think he was hurt by it in any sort of way. But I think you wanted to finish off with a wee comment on Porter. But before I do, actually, I think Connor's last dominating performance was those two whores he had in that video. When he was introducing the ferret to them, actually, I think that was his last dominating performance. But Adam, you give me your take on Porter, mate.
I think you've got to give respect to Porter. He's behaved himself in the face of lunacy throughout the build-up, and he's obviously gone in there and stuck to his game plan. But going forward, I don't know if the form line is that great. Broner offered very little last night, other than his mouth before and after the Bellew told. So I think he looked, although he did work the body to good effect and won rounds virtually with some body attacks, I think they looked pretty slow. We saw last year that he could be outboxed. I won't mention his name because obviously we're not allowed to praise matchroom fighters on this broadcast. But I just think going forward, Porter is beatable, and I'll be happy to take him on in betting terms going forward.
Now, Porter's obviously mentioned about, he's now wanting Floyd Mayweather, but I think Mayweather's come out and says that he's not interested in that fight. So Porter, I don't know if they maybe make the Garcia fight. You think that fight will get made at some point?
I hope so.
It's difficult with Garcia, isn't it, though? Because no one knows what division he's really going to be. He's sort of stuck in between that. Yeah, he's stuck in between that light welter and welter, and I think there's enough. One thing the PBC does have is plenty of fighters at 147. There's plenty of ways they could go with Porter.
Porter against Keith Thurman as well down the line. I think that's a good fight.
Yeah, that's true. I think I had something in my mind then. I actually forgot what it was. It was something about the weight issues. I think that's what it was. I'm trying to remember what it was. That's what it was. It took Frankie Garvin until he got smashed off Kell Brook to decide, I need to go down to 140. People have been saying for years, especially hardcore fans, that Frankie Garvin should go down to 140. And I think Cloner needs to do something similar. He needs to do everything possible to get himself down to 140 because 144, I mean, at that weight, would dwarf him, I think, at that weight. You seen, but Porter was beaten to the jab last night. This is a guy that says meant to be the heir to the throne apparent, so we can fucking forget about that.
Who's Broner going to fight at 140, though? I mean, most of the good guys are of top rank. I mean, he's not going to fight fucking Crawford. Crawford would destroy him. And the fact is...
How Burns?
Burns, yeah, why not?
Burns is fighting next Friday, I think, in an 8-rounder, I think.
The hottest shit in, all of boxing. I mean, we all wanted to see that. It's just so funny how the two of them, it was like the fight to be made at lightweight, and now, both of them are struggling to, sort of maintain their relevancy in the elite level.
Right, okay, moving on. I'll probably go to you first, Paul, with this one. I think you'll probably have some comments on this. Andre Ward finally returned to action after almost 2 years out against Paul. Don't know what his nickname was again, Real Gone Kid Smith or something like that, whatever that stands for. But it was quite sad to watch, actually. I kind of fast forward it. Smith made a complete and utter balls up of the weight. He's blaming the scales in his hotel room and then going to the official scales saying that they're off by £4. I don't know how a guy who's been to America before, travelled the world as an amateur, still can't get his weight down to the contracted weight of £172. Would they come in £4.5 heavy, I think it was. In the end, he was just like a punching bag. He had no spark, no steam, nothing, next to nothing about him there last night, Paul.
Well, considering in the build-up that he was fighting to get Andre Ward's camp to make the fight at 170, not 172. So Smith actively wanted the fight close to the super middleweight limit. And I think people were on his side with that because they thought, you know what, Andre Ward's a super middleweight world champion. Even though it's a non-title fight, it should really be at 168, 170 at push, but 172, the advantage was all within for Ward. However, what happened since then? I mean, it was a fight that no one gave a toss about, and suddenly the weight controversy, I think, drew a lot more people to want to watch it. If you take the weight aside for a minute and just look at the fight was terrible. I mean, it was as one-sided a fight as you're ever going to see. Andre Ward, I really believe, could have put him out of there at any point. He was happy to get the rounds in, happy to get his shots off. I mean, Paul Smith threw... What was it? I think it's like 40-odd punches in 9 rounds. I mean, he's averaging 5 punches a round. It was very similar to Tony Bellew's performance against Stevenson. The only thing that you can defend with Bellew is that Stevenson is a huge puncher, so he was always going to be cautious. Andre Ward doesn't have that big one-punch power, so Smith could have got him. He was huge in the ring. I mean, he was basically a cruiserweight in there. He really should have gone at Ward and thought, you're not going to beat him in a boxing match. He kept saying that the whole build-up. I'm not going to beat him on points. I'm not going to beat him in a boxing match. I've got to jump on him. He didn't do anything. He did absolutely zero in that fight. And what he's done to his reputation, people saying, I see his brothers on Twitter saying, he's been in one of the best in the world, another great day for the Smith brothers. Paul Smith has managed to, in the space of 48 hours, totally destroy his reputation purely because if it was any other fighter or a lot of other fighters who have got the weight wrong, do you know what? It happens sometimes, and it shouldn't happen. They're meant to be professionals, but it's the fact that he gave Rocky Fielding so much shit for coming in overweight and saying how unprofessional he was. He then goes and fails 2 different weight checks, despite them giving him an allowance to say, look, you can come in at this as a maximum. And he comes in as a cruiserweight. And suddenly he comes in sluggish and slow, and he's not doing very well. I mean, it's no shock. The guy's a middleweight. He's a small super middleweight at best. He was huge in there, looked awful. The fight got dragged out by Andre Ward, and it was as bad a fight as the matchup when it was set months ago. We all thought it was going to be. And Paul Smith, like I say, his name is mud right now for boxing fans, and he should feel really embarrassed.
Yeah, he was very rubbery running about the gut actually as well. Kurt, I think that Sky commentary last night, Nick Paul and Jim what the fuck going on about, this must be part of the master plan, they were trying to get Ward to kind of gas himself out and then he was going to take over late in the fight. Fucking nonsense. Anybody watching that fight from the offset could see that Ward was still far too good. Ward could have actually kind of come off that fight at any time. He wouldn't even needed a training camp for Paul Smith there last night. But I know you've got some comments you want to make on the weight, mate. On you go.
Yeah, I mean, what the fuck and Nick Pauling, I mean, I just ain't bother with them. They're just nonsense. The weight, I mean, my issue with the weight is, I don't believe it was an error at all. I just think they said, fuck the weight, people have been making excuses for Paul, saying it's error, water retention, all these kind of bollocks. But when you're that much over the limit, I mean, half a pound, we understand that can happen. Sometimes you can get things wrong or the weight just won't fall off. But when you see guys like Sean Porter and Daniel Gill the other week, they were having to drain to weights they hadn't seen in years. This was at a catch weight above his normal weight. I mean, it wasn't like he was getting dragged down to, as Tony Bellew would say, dregs in at the weight. This was at a weight class that should have been fine for him because it went in a non-title fight. You see it all the time. Why make guys drain down those last couple of pounds if there's no title on the line? There's no need to. So Ward and Smith, both happy with 172, doesn't really make no difference to them. He just doesn't look like he bothered to train for the fight. I don't know if he just came in just thinking, I'll give it a go for a couple of rounds, maybe, just come in fat and take my fine and just see if I can chin Ward early or something. I mean, that's really their only hope. I mean, they knew Ward was never going to cancel the fight. This is what gets me. They knew that Ward's been out for 19 months. He had to take the fight. So they really could do what they want. They could walk in whatever weight they wanted, and Ward couldn't really do it. But to me, it's annoying that fans are defending it because, let's be honest, we see Heyman guys failing weight. We see, the PBC guys. If guys were coming over here to, foreigners and doing that kind of thing, 4.5 pounds overweight, there'd be uproar, and rightly so. That to me is not an error. That's, what's gone on. They just don't care. And to me, they could have told Ward that. You don't have to be a fan of Ward to see that he's in the right on this one. And he said, they could have told me and we could have agreed of a higher weight, but he didn't. He let Ward drain down to 171, whatever he made, while he just didn't bother. And then the next day he didn't even bother to make the agreed 181 limit. It's just the fight itself. I mean, I'm not going to say nothing about Paul Smith because to me the fight went exactly how I thought it would go. He was just going to be a punch bag. That's not Paul Smith's fault. I mean, I think Ward should be criticised for taking the fight on. Paul Smith has never beaten anybody in his entire career. The levels to this is just ridiculous. If you take out Floyd Mayweather, Andre Ward's right there, and he's taken on a guy who's a domestic, British fighter. He's not world level. Losing to world level guys doesn't make you, world level. Marius Wack is world level. Alex Lepi is world level. They've lost to Klitschko. It doesn't mean anything. You've got to actually prove yourself world level by beating another world level guy. The fact is, Ward shouldn't have took this fight on. I know he's rusty and he wants to take on a guy, but this is just a mismatch. And the fight itself, I can't really say anything about Paul. He couldn't really do anything. You can say, he didn't try or he could have done this, but in reality, nothing he could have done would have won that fight. He couldn't do anything. There's levels to this game, and Ward is just on another planet to him. It's just the weight issues going into the fight have really, I think let him down after two decent performances against Abraham, and a lot of people said, fair play to him for that. But this way, and then Hearns defending of him, and all some of these fans defending him, I just think he's wrong.
What was Sky's take on the whole weight situation? I only saw the fight itself. I mean, how did they approach the whole thing?
It kind of clashed with the Endam fight. Alex, did you watch the Smith fight instead, mate? Can you give us a wee...
Yeah, I watched the Smith fight. The commentary was, of the weight it was taking the approach that, Smith just must have made a mistake. It wasn't his fault. It's obviously some sort of egregious error. Not the fact that he didn't bother to make fucking weight. Not the fact that he thought he'd try his luck and, take the piss out of Ward and take the piss out of all professional boxers who agree to a catch weight limit and come in 4.5 pounds overweight because he's a fucking waste of space, and then come in the next day and not make the agreed upon contract rehydration limit, and then Eddie Hearn comes onto Twitter and says, it was a health issue. The only fucking health issue that Paul Smith's got is diabetes at the moment. There was no fucking health issue with him not being able to make £181 the next day when he came in at £184.4. It was a fucking disgrace. And then the fucking Chuckle Brothers on Sky didn't even bother mention it. Like I said, all it was an egregious error. It was something that Paul, he should have reconsidered. It was fucking water retention. It wasn't water retention. It was fucking kebab retention. He's a fucking useless twat, and he didn't even fucking try last night. It was fucking awful. I mean, you think that, maybe he did put on the extra weight to try and knock out Andre Ward. Maybe he would go for broke early in the rounds. No, he barely flicked out a fucking jab. He put his hands up worse than Joshua Clottey, like the fucking statue, and just stood there trying his best to survive, but he couldn't even do that because Ward was just taking it as a sparring session and carried him for 9 rounds. And then when he opened up, he fucking destroyed him and embarrassed him. It was a total non-effort by Paul Smith, who prides himself on being this consummate professional, who prides himself on always trying, and he didn't try. He's a fucking letdown. He let down all of his fans who believed in him and spent good money on him and bet money on him. And I know a lot of people would bet good money on him, and went out on a limb and said he's going to do really well here, and he fucked it. He completely fucked it because he's useless and he's a twat. Everyone keeps saying to him, oh, you don't deserve this fight, mate. You don't deserve this fight. You're not on Ward's level. Yeah, he's not on Ward's level. And fair play, he took the fight. But he just proved all of us right. He proved all of us right that he didn't deserve this fight because he couldn't be fucking bothered to make the weight. And it's disgraceful. If Christopher Rebrasse comes over next week against Callum Smith, 5 pounds overweight, people will kick off. People go fucking mental. But is he allowed to do it because he's coming over? The excuses were, he's travelling. He's a complete underdog. He's going to lose this fight against an obviously superior boxer. Well, then every fucker who's an underdog should be able to come in at any weight they want just because they're a fucking underdog and they need the advantage. The excuses are embarrassing. Paul Smith is embarrassing. And anyone defending that shit should fuck off from the sport.
Alex, just take a deep breath in, mate, and answer me this question. Who do you follow that actually bet money on Paul Smith last night? Because I think need an intervention, mate.
I know a few people that are, good mates of the Smiths and obviously good supporters of the Smiths. And fair enough to them, they back their man and they support their man and they're still defending him now. And you can understand that, but fuck me, that was awful last night.
Adam,
to be honest,
sorry, mate. Go.
To be honest, I mean, whether you're close to Smith or not, betting on Smith against Andre Ward or Adrien Broner throwing dollars down the bog, I don't know which is worse than wasting money, to be honest.
The complete thing.
You heard Alex here going Tonto. I mean, where do you stand on the issue with the weight? I mean, I can understand the catch weights if it's a non-title fight, which you get these over the weight type fights and stuff. But this as I say, when we started talking about the fighters, Smith is a well-schooled amateur. He's been over the world. He's fought in America before. He's been to Germany a couple of times. It was a complete and utter non-effort there last night. And to be honest, missing the weight like that.
The complete thing is indefensible from start to finish, to be honest. I mean, you can accept catch weights for non-title fights. I cannot. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. Why does Andre Ward need to be fighting at 172? And to be honest, I know I was at the loop last week, but I didn't even know it was at a frigging catch weight. It's just completely indefensible from start to finish. I do feel a bit for Sky. HBO had the option not to take the fight, and they duly took that option. Sky ain't got the option. So last night, we had Dumb and Dumber trying to polish a turd, trying to sell shit. You can't sell it. So whatever they said last night was going to be embarrassing. Or the only way it wasn't going to be embarrassing for them and the viewers was if they shit on Paul Smith. It was never going to happen. He deserved it, but it was never going to happen for obvious reasons. I think Smith last night, not only has he probably edged towards retirement in his in-ring career, his out-the-ring career as well is going to have taken a massive hit. Is the negative PR that he's taken from this, following on from what he said about Rocky Fielding before.
Rocky Fielding, yep. Following
on from this image that he's built up, Paul Smith is a nice fella. I've spoke to him a couple of times. I actually saw him at Aintree Races a couple of months ago. He's a nice fella, and he comes across that way on TV. To be fair, he knows he's not the best boxer in the world. And he's going to finish his career having never won a world title. That's fair enough, but he's made a complete mess of this week. They've tried to defend it. It's disgusting, to be honest. And to go in the ring like that, overweight, not try at all. It's embarrassing. It is actually genuinely embarrassing for him and everyone involved. Like I say, Sky had to take it. They had no option, and they wasn't going to shit on him during the fight. Or certainly before. I don't honestly. I'm so sick of catch weights as well. Why does Andre Ward need a catch weight fight at 172? Honestly, because he's a 168 king. I know he's running low on opponents, and he's beat a lot of people at 168. But having been out the ring for so long, maybe he needs a test run. He knows it's going to be an easy fight. Have the test run at actually making the weight again. And unless he's obviously and pre-planned to move up to 175 next time, then maybe I can take it. But it's just a shambles from top to bottom.
And we're going to get a local Scouser on shortly, Paul McAllister, who you all know is a big Paul Smith fan.
To the extent where he had to put his Twitter account on private for a prolonged period.
Yeah, and stop going to Everton games. Paul, you there, mate?
I'm here, yeah.
How you doing, mate? I mean, give me your take on that last night. But first off, give me your take on the weight issue and the fact that it is, you know, double standards from Paul Smith, as we mentioned, you know, especially after kind of giving Rocky Fielding shit for missing weight a couple of fights back as well.
Yeah, to be honest, he is, as we've said, he's a fat middleweight. He always has been a fat middleweight. And why he's coming in at cruiserweight, I don't know. He's obviously been stuffing doner kebabs down his gob. But if he wants to do that, he can, but just don't lecture other people like Rocky Fielding first. Well, the whole fight, it was highly amusing, because seeing a arrogant, horrible bastard get an absolute kicking made my week. No, honest to God, people know I don't like him. I've never liked him. Over the past 8 or 9 months, as he's got these 2 Abraham fights, and he's got this fight, I've grew to dislike him even more, because of his horrible attitude, the way he speaks to fans, the way he carries himself, the way he has this entitlement complex, this horrible ego. How dare you say that I'm not world class, you're a fucking idiot, I'm going to block you, I'm going to root for your Facebook accounts, I'm going to insult your girlfriend, I'm going to get me mates to DM your threats. He's a fucking horrid bastard. Seeing him get bloodied up and punched in and get his fucking head smashed to bits was brilliant.
Something like sitting on the fence there, mate. What is the local feeling just now? I mean, people talking about it on the streets last night?
I don't know, because I've not read any of the local papers or anything, but...
You'll be in hiding still from Tony Bellew, won't you?
Me?
Aye.
Probably, yeah, to be honest. Tony's cool. As we've said, I'm probably one of the very few people from this city who just doesn't blindly support a boxer because he's from the same postcode as me. But again, I'll echo what Alex said. He's a horrible bastard. He's let down all the fans who believed in him, because I do know quite a lot of people who do support him, and you know, they support him for the right reasons. They say, "Oh, he's always been a good guy to me. You know, I support my own." But he's let all those people down. All of this, how can I turn down this opportunity? He kept saying that over and over again in these interviews. So people just expect me to say, no, I don't want this fight. I want to test myself against the best. You fought the best, mate, and you did absolutely nothing. There are so many fighters in this world who they'd have killed someone to get a fight with Andre Ward. Frank Buglioni, Rocky Fielding, you know, domestic level guys who, if you'd have offered them a fight with Andre Ward, I bet you they'd have gone over and made weight. I bet you they'd have gone over and actually put an effort in, instead of just looking to survive.
We could have almost swallowed it, you know. I know the performance was horrid, but we could have almost swallowed it if it had made the weight. But it's this making the weight issue that's really tipped it over the edge, to be honest. And I said, you know, he's going to take the opportunity for that money. He's going to take the opportunity. But there's a case to be made. I know he's had some money already taken off his purse. There's a case to be made for a percentage of the purse being withheld. That performance last night was one of the worst we've ever seen. Ever.
That performance reminded me of Audley Harrison against David Hay, just slower.
It's a bad day. It's a bad day when you got big fat Dan Rayfield fucking telling you're unprofessional for missing weight. That was a bad day.
I know. I know, but what was the difference between that and Harrison turning up against Hay and not throwing a punch and embarrassing himself and embarrassing Sky Sports and embarrassing all the people who believed in him?
I think Kurt needs to answer that.
I don't mean this to hate on Audley, because at least Audley's won a European title, something Smith's never achieved.
Hold on.
The difference was, like Andre Ward Paul Smith went into that fight pretty much saying that he wasn't going to win. And he said he was going to try, but he never really came out and said, I'm going to win because I'm going to do this. Whereas Audley Harrison and a few other fighters have come out and embarrassed themselves because they've promised a hell of a lot and then delivered nothing at all. Like I said, the people aren't criticising Paul Smith because he lost. They're criticising him because of how he lost and his preparation. If he'd have gone in there last night, swung, and got knocked out in 2 rounds, like he did against George Groves, another domestic level fight that Paul Smith came short of in, I wouldn't really have a big problem with that. We could spend this time hammering. I mean, Andre Ward has managed to get out of this with an out of jail free card because he was paid $2 million for that fight last night. It was an embarrassing, awful fight. And what we should be doing is absolutely slating Andre Ward for coming back to that. But Andre Ward's got, like I said, a pass now because all of the criticism is going to be on Paul Smith.
Paul, anything else you want to add, mate, before we let you go?
As I said, it made me laugh as well, listening to Watt and Horlings wondering aloud whether Smith being so pathetically shit was a tactic. I got a chuckle out of that at 4 o'clock in the morning when I was struggling to stay awake. That made me laugh.
They definitely deserve a Bellew of the Week nomination for that shit.
But anyway, back to fingering pigeons and stalking people on Facebook and sending DM threats to people. In a bit, Smigger. Retire now, you bastard.
Cheers for that, mate.
Cheers, Paul. Andy, I must admit, last night, for the first time ever, I actually muted the commentary.
Did you?
I was sitting at my dad's on my own at 5:15, whatever it was, and after about 4 rounds, I muted it because, like I say, they had to toe the party line. Surely, even those two clowns could not believe the word and believe the words they were saying. It was so bad. I just turned.
I never really paid much attention to my. I actually kind of fast forwarded some of that fight up to the stoppage and stuff.
Yeah,
for me, it was a mercy stoppage from the corner eventually in the end.
We just want to discuss the fight, have we? I mean, we're taking the piss out of Smith, but the fight itself, I mean, Ward was basically sparring. It was a boring fight for the first 6 rounds until he decided to open up and just beat the fucking piss out of Smith. And then it was glorious when Tesco Joe threw in the fucking towel and ended it all, and Paul Smith was a bloody mess and looked like a fucking waste of space he is, so yeah.
Apparently Curtis actually had his fine rescinded from, I think he was, Andre Ward says no thanks to that money, is that right, mate?
Yeah, I think Ward deserves credit. I mean, he apparently he waived it and said, he doesn't have to be fined, and I think Smith said it in the post-fight presser that, that's, he didn't have to do it. It's a fair play to him. But I'm still annoyed at Paul's disrespectful comment about Audley Harrison. I just want to say, Audley Harrison against David Haye had 100% connect rate. Nobody has ever done that. He threw one, landed one. Nobody's ever had 100% connect rate. Floyd Mayweather, Klitschko, Rigondeaux, nobody. So, Audley Harrison did his thing, and he was injured.
Paul, how much hate do we need to give Ward for that last night?
Oh, we gave him a hell of a lot of hate 3 months ago when the fight was made. Quite a bit of hate coming up to it, and then, like I say, he was talking about how durable Paul. There's the things that come out of Andre Ward's mouth this week, and it's because Andre Ward doesn't really know who Paul Smith is. So Andre Ward saying that a lot of people thought that Paul Smith won both Abraham fights. A lot of there's a couple of people who thought he won the first one, and there are.
Joe Gallagher wasn't one of them anyway.
Jim Watson calling, isn't he?
Yeah, exactly. There were 0.000 people who thought that he won the rematch. Well, no one did. Like I said, but Andre Ward's having to sell him as an opponent to obviously the American audience. But when you're having to sell your opponent as he's lost 2 fights in a row at world title level, but he almost won them, so that means he should be fighting me. I mean, I'm a defender of Andre Ward because a lot of people don't like his style and they find him really boring. When he last fought, was it 2 years ago, I really enjoyed the fight. I think watching from a technical point of view, watching Andre Ward switch jab from head to body, he's technically so excellent, and he's not as boring on the. I like Rigondeaux, but I think he's got more to him than that. He's more exciting to watch. But he should get slammed for that because he's basically Jay-Z's got a lot of money, but he robbed Jay-Z of $2 million last night. I mean, that was how they ever sold that fight to anyone. And like was discussed before, Andre Ward works for HBO. Jay-Z does specials on HBO. He couldn't be more into that channel, and they didn't want to know at all. And this is hopefully going to be a wake-up call for him and say, look, he's now got to make big fights. But I will say this. I think Andre Ward beat Golovkin. I think he beat Kovalev. I think he beat any active fighter, super middle, obviously if anyone's coming from middle, to light heavy. And I want to see him step up because I think he is that much better than anything at 168 right now.
How can you say
that? Let's be truthful here about this weight issue. If that had been any other fighter except from Paul Smith last night, there was no way that fight was going to go ahead at that weight. No chance that'd be. If that had been Kovalev, I wouldn't say Golovkin, but if that had been Kovalev, there was not a chance that fight was ever going to happen.
No, he had to let it happen, and that's how much he dismissed Paul Smith's chance in that fight. That someone could rock up that high on weight, and then they go, okay, well it's all right. Well tomorrow, tell you what, if you can weigh in just inside cruiserweight, that'd be okay. And then he doesn't do that, and for him to still go, oh okay, it's fine. Paul Smith could have weighed 200 pounds last night. He could have walked in the ring with a bat. and Andre Ward would have still been very, very confident he was going to win every single round.
Yeah,
And
but we're talking as if the weight's an advantage for Paul Smith. It's not. We're not talking Chad Dawson here. We're talking someone who's a former middleweight. Smith ain't coming down. Smith to be carrying the extra weight is a disadvantage. He was slow as shit. He was obviously out of shape, not trained hard enough. So you could argue that the heavier Paul Smith is, the more of an advantage it is to Andre Ward. He's just going to dominate the fight against a plodding punch bag with two legs.
Well, I'm one of those who I genuinely don't believe, and again, you can disagree with me on this, I genuinely don't believe that Paul Smith intentionally fought Andre Ward at 180 plus pounds. I really don't. I don't see... Well, that is the question. So, we've had it before where fighters have just flat out got weight wrong, but Paul Smith gave him... Adam, you like talking bookies. The minute that Paul Smith came in at that weight, he went from being 33 to... Well, Andre Ward was 33 to 1 on to win. It went out to 50s. Right, so everybody knew that was the wrong move for him. I can't see any argument or any discussion where Joe Gallagher and Paul Smith have sat together and gone, right, I think you need to come in 180 pounds. You'll be slow, sluggish. You'll be vulnerable to the body, which he proved that he was. That there was no physical advantage to do it. Something either went disastrously wrong, or
he was ill.
Yeah, or he was ill. There's some other factor.
Well, it was out there 2 weeks, and Joe was only there for 1 week. Is that right?
Yeah, I think Gallagher was still in the UK probably middle of last week. I think I've seen the picture of him on Twitter with Scott Quigg up some of the hills doing some runs and stuff.
Yeah. Paul, just to go back to your earlier point about Ward getting a pass, he won't be getting a pass for this fight in America. They don't care who Paul Smith is and what he weighs. They just care that it was a horrid fight and he's getting paid all that much money. I don't think Ward's getting a pass for this on his side of the Atlantic.
But on the subject of Paul Smith, Andy, sorry, just to say one thing briefly. If you think about it, Smith has had an amazing career, hasn't he? I mean, how unexpectedly brilliant has Smith's career turned out to be. I mean, he fought a current world champion in James DeGale, world title challenger George Groves, got stopped in both. You think that's the end? He fights a succession of journeymen, then he gets these two Abraham fights, and then fights a pound-for-pound star. I mean, what an ridiculous career Smith has ended up having. I mean, earlier on we said his career at the world level will be tainted now. But, I mean, who would have thought he'd even got anywhere near this type of level? His rise is just a stark indication of how these governing bodies can be manoeuvred and manipulated with a bit of trickery. I mean, it's just unbelievable looking down his box fight record. Don't know what you think about that.
I still can't believe that people actually went absolute tonto about that first Abraham decision. I just can't see any way how he won that fight, and people
were mental about it. It was a good performance in a losing fight. It was a good performance, but it's nearly 2 years to the day that he beat Tony Dodson. And if you'd have said to him that night, in the next 2 years, you're going to fight Abraham for a world title twice and the pound for pound king, or certainly the super middleweight king, I mean, he would have left you out the park. I mean, you'd have talking about odds. You'd have got bloody 200 to 1 on that.
Right, let's reel this back in for just a second, right? Andre Ward beat Paul Smith last night. He didn't beat any fucking world beater. He didn't beat anyone important. He beat Paul Smith. Let's not throw out, the hyperbole about, he'll deal with Golovkin, he'll deal with Kovalev right now. All he beat last night was Paul Smith, and he looked good, yeah, but it's Paul Smith. I want to see him in the important fights soon. I want to see him fight Kovalev. I think Kovalev beats him, and I've said before I think Golovkin beats him. But hopefully we actually see those fights. I think Ward will probably move up to 175 soon. I mean, it's maybe hard to say at the moment. We don't know if he can even make 168 anymore, and he probably could, because he's a consummate professional, and he does make weights when he wants to stick to them, unlike some fighters. But, like I said, just reel it in. We can't praise Ward for starters for beating Paul Smith. It's ridiculous. Paul Smith is domestic level, and he beat him soundly, and he did what he was supposed to. I'm not saying
that he beats those guys because he beat Paul Smith. What I'm saying is that all we needed to know was, how did that time out of the ring affect him? He literally, from round one, it was as though he had just left off from the Edwin Rodriguez fight. There didn't seem to be any dip in performance. So all I'm saying is that he was up against nobody, but when he's been up against very good fighters, he carries on that elite level. If you look at his last few fights, he barely loses a round. I mean, the Carl Froch scoring was an absolute joke, but he's barely lost a round in a lot of his fights. He absolutely obliterated Dawson. I mean, he completely scored Rodriguez again, Beaker, Green, Kessler, all of these names where he's dominated fights. So we're not saying he's going to, I'm not saying he's going to win it because he beat Paul Smith. Beating Paul Smith doesn't mean anything, but it just means that he's still got all the skills that he had. He's still only 31, and he is a stylistic nightmare for any fighter in that weight class.
I agree. He is, like you said from the other fights, you can tell that he is the most complete fighter in the sport, most likely. I mean, he's got everything. I mean, you can say that Rigondeaux is arguably the best counter puncher, and he's the slickest boxer. You can say that Gonzalez is the greatest offensive boxer in the sport at the moment, and obviously Mayweather got the best defense. But Andre Ward encompasses everything. But the fact is, he did just beat Paul Smith. He's not back at the top of the pound for pound rankings. He's not anywhere important at the moment, apart from the fact that he did beat Paul Smith and he's ready to step up again, and he needs to be in an important fight next, and we need to enforce an important fight next for him. We can't accept low level opponents for him, because he is on this high pedestal now, and he needs to be going against a Froch rematch. He needs to have a Kovalev fight, a Stevenson fight, get it done.
I'd like to see him at 175 now. I think 168 he's done all he can do there. I mean, I know he might hang around there because in the hope of a Golovkin fight. I mean, I'd like to see that fight, but it's just, is it going to happen? That's the problem, and he's just going to be wasting his career waiting for that fight. I mean, if it happens soon, fair enough, but I think moving up in his next fight, someone like a Jean Pascal would be the perfect type of fight for him. I don't expect him to go straight in with a Kovalev, but Stevenson fight won't happen because he's with Heyman, and he don't do business with Rock Nation or whatever they're called. But the Kovalev fight's there. John Pascal, I think, would be the perfect fight for him. He's a guy who's been at the weight for a while. He's fast, and he's obviously just been in with Kovalev himself. And then after, should he win that, which I think it's a good fight for him, but you would make him the favourite, then I want to see the Kovalev fight. I mean, Kathy Duva's already said she wants to see it early next year. You can't give Ward a little bit of a chance to come back. He's had this easy fight now. Put him in with someone like Pascal, win that fight. Let's see Kovalev. I mean, I wouldn't rule Kovalev out in that fight. I don't care how good Ward has looked. I mean, Kovalev has shown that he's not just a puncher, and I think that's a really tough fight to call for me. Right,
let's move this chat along now. We've got quite a few Twitter questions we need to batter through before Bellew of the Week segment starts. So we'll start off with the ones that I've got just sent through to me recently. Gareth Young's asking, he says, Andy, you keep saying certain fighters lose because they ain't living the life. Does the great Johnny Tapia piss on this theory, or was he the exception to the rule, or could he have been better? Well, Arturo Gatti liked to have a good party and a good time in that as well. Quite a few fights. Roberto Duran, I think it's just more down to kind of more do with talent, I think. What do you think, Paul?
Yeah, I think there comes a point when your ability will get you so far. I remember hearing stories about Kirkland Lang, and literally he had a fight. I think he was fighting Rocky Kelly in the 80s, and on the Saturday no one knew where he was, and he was they found him absolutely smashed, threw water on him, laced him up and threw him out, and he won because his ability carried him that far. And like I said, when we talk about living the life, that's what we mean. It's just the fact that the skill level is not going to change, and I presume when we talk about Broner in this example, that his skill level's still there, but his dedication and his willingness to put more into every round, which you can only get from training properly. And there are lower skilled fighters who live the life better and will go further than higher skilled fighters who don't, and it's as simple as that, really.
Steve, you're saying Eamon McGee was on the piss the night before he fought Hatton?
Yeah, Eamon was notoriously like to drink, and I know before the Hatton fight he was on the piss, and sure, look, in the first few rounds he gave Hatton a bit of a scare, but then as the fight wore on, I think the beer kicked in.
I remember hearing or reading when Sugar Ray Robinson came over here to fight Randy Turpin in the first fight. He was actually out drinking and gambling the night before the fight, and they ended up losing it. So it just shows you, really. I mean, you're talking about a talent and ability will only carry you so far. We're talking about one of the greatest to ever do it.
Yeah, Paul summed it up well. I think his assessment was spot on. Your talent will get you so far, and guys can get to the top, but you do need that little bit of extra.
Yep. That was from. I'll stick this one just now. Maverick Boxer Adam, I think this one relates to Nandam's fight last night. Maverick Boxers asking 50,000, 100,000, 200,000. When's it worth to put your health and career on the line and go and take a beating?
Oh, it's all personal circumstances. Really.
You've not seen the Nandam fight, mate. But as I say, $100,000 apparently, and he put in that performance here last night. He deserved what Broner got last night.
Yeah, he's putting people like Broner to shame. But to be fair, Broner's got kind of used to earning decent money throughout. He's obviously been knocking around with Mr. Money, and Dam is. He's had a checkered past. I think that started in Africa, now in France, bit of Irish influence, and fighting in America. So, 100 grand could mean a lot more to him than obviously it does Mr. Broner. So, all personal circumstances. But I mean, on paper, down 4 times and down 6 times in a previous fight, it looks like he's getting absolutely battered around the ring. But as we spoke earlier, he actually won a few rounds and. If it were not for the knockdowns, he may have won both of those fights. So, yeah, on paper it looks very different. But we've got to remember though, 100 grand is still quite a lot for us.
Yeah, and he's got to think as well. And Dam's obviously a proud guy as well. You can tell by the way he fights through things. Yeah, he obviously would like more money. Every boxer would. And when he sees guys like Floyd Mayweather and Manny Pacquiao earning hundreds of millions for their crap fight, what can it do to you? But for him, it's not just the money. He's a proud warrior who wants to not only win the fight, but he wants to prove himself. And I just think he's not going to ever be on that level. And let's be honest, 99% of fighters aren't on the the level of these guys who are making $1 million paydays, huge money. So he's just got to get on with it. And we speak about the bouts, but that bout was the one thing that could get him onto future paydays. And hopefully that's not the last we see of him now he's lost that bout.
Next question comes in from Jerry Murray. I think I'll go to you. This one, Alex. Excuse me. Will the board refuse to let Scousers fight overseas if they continue to throw no punches while they're there?
Well, it seems to be a running trend at the moment. Bellew was, to be honest, as much as the slating that I've given Smith tonight, I still think Bellew's performance was worse, because although Smith, put a high guard up and tried to throw a few punches, Bellew was actually running for his dear life, and the absolute shit talking that he gave at the weigh-in for Stevenson, giving it the big end, calling him a pimp and a rapist and all this nonsense, and then he went and ran for his fucking dear life. I still think Bellew's performance there was certainly worse, but there's plenty of good Scouse fighters, and I certainly wouldn't want to tie them all with the same brush.
I still hate how the mainstream, obviously not us, has let Sky and Matchroom brush that Bellew performance under the carpet, because that was the worst performance we've seen in a world for a Brit challenging for a world title probably ever. Certainly in my time it was a complete embarrassment, and I like to remind listeners as often as possible.
Yeah, I think the frustrating thing about Bellew is he was bigger than Stevenson. He can punch, and when you see that in Stevenson's next fight he was pushed all the way by Fonfara, who gave it his absolute all, that's what makes it even more frustrating. That you think, if Bellew had gone out there looking to land the big bombs, he might have got knocked out in 2 rounds, but at least you could say, the guy gave it everything. And as you say, he just went on the back foot and hardly landed a punch, to be honest, and he must regret that performance to this day.
I mean, the thing with Bellew, obviously he's back on Friday, but he's a mainstay on Sky. Like he's a big deal for Sky, and he's responsible for Chilemba 1, arguably the worst fight Sky have ever broadcast. Responsible for Bellew Cleverly 2, or part responsible for the worst pay-per-view headline they've ever done, and responsible for one of the worst performances ever put in overseas when he fought Stevenson, and yet he's still such a mainstay of Matchroom and Sky. It's amazing, really, how he's got away with it. He's never been in very good fights, and yet he's the headliner, he's the biggest name in the city, and they'll continue to push him towards what will probably be an absolutely shitty world title fight, which will probably be as exciting as all these other ones have been.
That's a good point, actually, Paul. If you think about it, he's been sort of built off the back of the reputation of being an exciting fighter, but apart from the first Nathan Cleverly fight, I mean, maybe Oval McKenzie. How many exciting? Is his style exciting? Would you guys class him as an exciting guy to watch?
The first McKenzie fight was good, but apart from that, I mean,
on a regular basis.
I can't remember the last Bellew fight I enjoyed, apart from Stevenson fight, because that was brilliant.
Maybe
That's a
maybe
typical
first
hate
fight with
comment.
Cleverly. Maybe the first fight with Cleverly, maybe.
Yeah, I mean, it was alright.
That one on Sky,
as
though.
well.
Yeah.
But you have to remember, fellas, with the power that he carries, then he's obviously an exciting fighter.
Yeah, but the thing is, we don't operate on his level, so we're not allowed to talk about it. We just watch. Anyways, Rocco's asking this next question. I'll go to you, Steve. It's Monday tomorrow, and that means one thing: the day you start dieting. No doubt, Paul Smith will be starting his diet tomorrow. So, can the panel discuss which diet is best suited to him? Atkins, the 5+2 diet, or should you eat what he wants and remain fat and unhappy? See, no, honestly, actually, he was actually unhappy when he was slimming, actually, as well.
You think going on a diet's going to cheer him up anymore? I wouldn't have thought. I wouldn't have thought so. No, I think that, Paul, you know what? If you're listening, Paul, which I'm sure you are, just go nuts, man. It's time to kick back and enjoy yourself like Adrien Broner. Go out for a meal and never worry about the weight. Although I could have given you that advice on Thursday as well.
Kurt, Bobby Hunter's asking, Porter's weight, has he explained if he did anything different to shed the 3 pounds but stay healthy?
No, I just think he said he just had a good camp. I mean, he's obviously just like Gil did, but I think the last time they said he weighed that weight was when he was an amateur. So I mean, a long time ago. So on the day before the weigh-in, they said he was 147 pounds. So he obviously probably his usual effort is to be 150 pounds day before the weigh-in to make the welterweight limit. So he did really well, and to be honest, his stamina was fine up until the end. I mean, even in the 12th round, he was still punching. So I think that's just a good example for every fighter out there who accepts a catch weight. That if you agree to the catch weight, I think Paul said it the other week that when Gil and the like accept a catch weight, even if fans might say, "Oh, hope they fuck the weight and just come in and screw," guys like Carl over. If you agree to it, you got to go through with it. And guys like Porter have shown that you can make the weight, healthily. Someone like Gil just shouldn't have done it.
Next question comes in from Barry Evans. Paul, is Fury better off for Hay and Chisora fights being delayed or cancelled? More time in the gym, bigger profile, and maybe avoided Pulev loss?
Oh, massively so, because David Hay would have absolutely annihilated him. Him avoiding that fight may have hurt his bank balance, but it has given him the shot, put him in an opportunity where he can fight for a world title, where he can get annihilated again by someone better than Vladimir Klitschko. I think that he has been unfortunate in the fact that through no fault of his own, there's been so many delays and certain problems he's had, but it's all come to help him in the end because it's put him in this position. Like I say, I've always said it, I had tickets to the Hay Fury fight. Fury wouldn't have seen round 3. I think he is so poor. I think I'm still staggered to this day how he is unbeaten and how he is in this mandatory position, how he's got there off the back of beating Derek Chisora and fouling and knocking out Cunningham, being knocked over and hurt by high kick and Cunningham, and how is he here? I've never understand that. And like I said, there's been a lot of talk about where this Klitschko fight's going to happen. I just want it to happen. I want it to happen now, as soon as possible, just so we can see what an absolutely one-sided blobberfest that shit fight will be. I don't want him to fight Deontay Wilder, because Deontay Wilder's shit, and he might beat Deontay Wilder, and then we'll have to put up with Tyson Fury, WBC heavyweight champion of the world, get him in with Klitschko, get him absolutely taken down the level that he needs to be, and then we can regroup and see what he's got. But no, it would have helped him, but terrible.
Just on the Hay fight,
fighters in the country.
On the Hay fight, I think Fury would have had a decent chance in that fight if he fought southpaw. Now, obviously, we'd have not known that beforehand, but I think he'd have had a decent chance if southpaw.
If you fight southpaw against Klitschko, then he gets a race quicker than if he fought orthodox.
Yeah,
I really do believe that. I just don't think his movement's the same as he fights southpaw. TG Cummins is asking, I think we've already answered this question, I think it was maybe Alex, he was asking about where does Smith's debacle last night, rank against Bellew, against Stevenson. I think it was Kurt and Alex mentioned it. So he asks a second question, what was the reason for coming in so far overweight because of retained water or chips? Again, I think it was you, Paul, that mentioned it. I really don't know if he's been ill, an absolute and utter fuck up on the scales. I mean, as I say, he was blaming his own scales and then he got into the official scales and stuff. I really don't know what's happened there, but they've really, really fucked it up big style. Scotty RFC is asking Steve, would Paul Smith manage even so much as a half a smile if he walked in on Mrs. Double Ending, on his Mrs. Double Ending Melly Kunis?
Who?
Is it Miley? Is it Miley Kunis?
Mila.
Is it Mila Kunis?
Yeah. She played the, have you seen Black Swan?
Was that the one where she gets poked off as lassie in the library?
No.
She's
That's not the library.
Trying to think what she's been in.
She's a film review by the Nuthouse podcast.
You answer this one, someone.
She voices Meg in Family Guy, and she was in Black Swan and Friends with Benefits, and she's.
Really is that the Black Swan when she was having the laser performance? She got killed. She gets strangled in that. Aye.
Yeah,
I will say yes.
Right, raise a smile. half a smile.
I can't even remember what the question was.
We'll move on then.
I'd say he'd get his chips delivered and he'd eat his chips and watch.
Okay, Steve, I'll give you this one then from Tim Lloyd. Should Paul Smith be kept on as a pundit for Sky after such unprofessional showing?
Yeah, I think they will keep him on. Should they keep him on? I don't really care, to be honest with you. Sky can do whatever they want. Give him another chance. Everyone deserves a second chance. Come on, Team Smith.
They keep What the Fucking Appalling on. I mean, why not? Are they going to not keep Smith on, to be honest?
Yeah, the more hate you give him, the more Sky dig their heels in and keep him on, so you never know.
Watt and Halling could get caught by U-Tree and Sky would keep him on. It's bloody disgusting. They can't do nothing wrong. So Paul Smith, to be fair to him, as poor as he's been as a fighter, he's actually quite a good analyst. So, any hope that we've got of getting rid of Halling and Watt and, bringing in someone like Smith or possibly Matthew Macklin, then, bring it on.
A couple of comments on here from Scotty RFC. Says, if Paul Smith deserved last night's fight, do us viewers deserve to see him fight Triple G? I'm assuming Alex and Paul would actually say yes to that one. And he also says, does Kell Brook get rid of his retention in any different way to other boxers? Adam?
Short answer, no.
You don't know? You don't want to know?
No, I don't want, I'm not interested.
He goes to
That's the best.
he dances
the
it
best
off in
certain
certain clubs at night time and with lots of his male friends and
YMCA
in Sheffield or in Liverpool,
wherever he wants. He likes to get about, does Cal, and certain marching powder helps him along as well.
There goes the lawsuit.
Joseph Webb is asking Kurt, what's the worst performance from a UK fighter against a big name in the US?
I mean, Lockett's recent time. Lockett against Pavlik, Jennings against Carr, but they're really overmatched. So it's hard to say. I mean, when they're overmatched like that, I mean, how much stick can you really give the guy? I mean, they're just not meant to have any chance, and they aren't. I mean, I'm trying to think of guys who went over there with looked upon as decent chances. It's you don't get many, to be honest. Even someone like Purdy. I mean,
Frank
you
Bruno,
can't.
Second fight against Tyson.
Just about to say
he was shit scared of that.
Yep.
Yeah, but thing with Frank is he was well past his best anyway, and he was just there for the payday. I think he knew that he didn't really have much chance with that version of Tyson because he struggled against McCall, and he was he got his big fight in America defending his title. So yeah, I mean, I can't give him too much stick against that version of Tyson, to be fair.
Ryan Rose.
Adam Latoon fan, aka Fuck Paul Smith, states or asks the question: do you think Froch was watching thinking he can beat Ward? What are the chances of Ward smashing Froch again? I hope he does.
Well, the fight ain't happening, and if the fight was to happen, the chances of Ward smashing Froch again would be very high. But as I like to remind listeners that the first fight was not a smashing because it was actually a majority decision.
Adam out.
Alex,
why can't I say stuff like that for Froch and get away with it, but Kirk can speak about Audley Harrison with 100% punch output, but that's fine.
Does Froch
Because
have a
people
gold
like
medal?
Audley Harrison.
Is Froch a gold medalist? No, he's not.
I tell you what, if Harrison had actually stayed amateur, he could actually be going for his third or fourth gold medal by now. Actually,
he'd basically be the heavyweight Rigondeaux, the new Savani would be.
Mm-hmm. Alex, Sean Rigby's asking, if Hearn promoted a pie eating competition between Paul Smith, Broner's dad and Fat Dan, what would it be called?
There's not enough pies in the world to feed them.
Christ, that's some title. Steve, Jack's asking, how do you think Spike would do against Lemieux?
I don't know. I don't think that one would last too long either way.
Think Spike gets taken out in that fight?
Don't know. He's shown a pretty good chin throughout his career, but Lemieux hits unreasonably hard, so I'd say there's a chance he could get taken out, yeah, but we haven't really seen Spike hit flush by a real world-class puncher. I know he lost to Saunders, but Saunders, more builds up the points and stuff, so that'd be an interesting fight, actually, there, because Spike can punch hard enough to hurt Lemieux as well. I'd really like to see that one, but I think Lemieux would win, maybe late stoppage or something, but yeah, bring it on, I'd love that.
Mm-hmm. Paul, Jack's also asking, do you think we'll ever see Ward in against the likes of Triple G, Golovkin or Stevenson? We're not going to see the Stevenson fight anyway, let's just leave that one off the question, but Golovkin and Kovalev?
Yeah, Beyonce and Jay-Z put an end to that question. But no, I think, the logical fight for me at the moment is Kovalev. I think that Golovkin, he's still... I want to see Golovkin step up to super middleweight and do well there, but I think that Andre Ward is already on his way out of that division. So I think that... and also Kovalev is a more established name in terms of he has a big signature win, which Golovkin, again, through no fault of his own, doesn't have. So I think that's a much bigger fight. I think it's a straightforward fight to make on HBO, and I think it's the best fight out of the two options. I think Ward Golovkin is interesting, but I think Ward Kovalev is a much more competitive fight than Ward Golovkin would be.
Next question, I'll go to you, Kurt. Nick Thompson, who weighed more on the night last night, Paul Smith or Kell Brook? I tell you, he was looking really pudgy last night, wasn't he? Kurt.
He has put on a lot of weight, hasn't he, Cal? I mean, when's his next fight, did they say? No, he's been pushed back to September now, so... Because he's supposed to be fighting in August, wasn't he? Now it's been pushed back, but... I mean, yeah, he puts on a hell of a lot of weight. I mean, you don't know how long he's going to be staying at welterweight by the looks of it. I don't know how easy he makes the weight, but... when he was on the scales for Gavin, I mean, he looked so gaunt in the face. You can see why, because obviously he likes his food and other things, according to Alex, in between fights, but... Yeah, you just wonder how long he can stay at welterweight.
Another question here from Jack. He's asking if Broner moved back down to 135, would he be the best at the weight? Potentially, yeah. I mean, he's obviously going to have the natural size. That's when you've seen Broner probably at his best, and that's when you probably heard all the hype starting, the superstar and Floyd Mayweather. He's going to be the next Floyd Mayweather and all that sort of stuff. Let's just be real about it, though. There is not a chance in hell that Adrien Broner makes fucking 135, and I'd be deeply surprised that if he keeps going at the rate he's going, he's never going to make 140 again, put it that way.
More chance of his dad making £200 than making 135.
I'm telling you, middleweight within 4 or 5 fights.
Nathan Newman saying if Broner was to move back to 135, would the panel agree he would be ducking Crawford at 140? No, I don't believe that. Lee Davis, Paul, if Smith retires, how will he be remembered? Serious question.
I think he'll be remembered as someone who took on a lot of difficult challenges, someone who was willing to put himself out in shows like The Contender, and obviously being the first of... I mean, people can criticise the Smith brothers and Gallagher and all those guys, but it's an impressive thing what that family's achieved. So I think he was the first of them, and I think he has that. He is someone that, like a lot of plucky Brits, has come up short in pretty much every test he's had. I think the defeats to De Gale and Groves, which don't get talked about as much, were quite definitive. And people talk about Paul Smith being British level. Well, he obviously won the title, but he hasn't actually beaten an elite or a decent British level fighter. He's beat Tony Dodson, will remain the best name on that record. But the fact that he will have retired fighting Ward, Abraham, more world title shots, big events, headlining events in America and in England and in Germany, I think he's got a lot to look back on, and also the fact that he's got a ready-made career, and there's very few fighters who will walk into that chair on Sky Sports, but he will. He's managed to go from the one channel to the other and really fit in well there. A lot of people don't like him. on how he comes across on TV, but he's got a he's got a good future ahead of him, and I think he'll look fondly on his career, and he'll have made a decent amount of money. But people will remember last night, and that will haunt him a little bit, I think.
Alex Andrew Lee Evans is asking, a fine per pound over the weight surely is not the way to go about things. It's unsafe. How far can you go without the bout being pulled?
Alex is away, I think.
You see, he was just back there, was he not? Alex. Steve, you want to take that question up, mate?
No, thanks.
Okay. I'm just trying to think how far are we talking about here? Is he talking about like if a guy's draining himself to make the weight? Or
What was the question?
a fine per pound over surely is not the way to go about things. It's unsafe. How far can you go without the bout being pulled? So is it just mainly about the fines of like per pound overweight? I really don't know. I mean,
Well, if it's talking about the rehydration limit, isn't it? I mean, in the case of Smith, I think that was fine because we all know that he's not a big super middleweight at all. So, in the case of we was all stunned when he came in at 176. So when they said he had to be 181 without being fined again, I think even then you thought, well, surely he's going to make that. So in that case, I think there was, no problem. But in other cases, I mean, it just depends. If someone's trying to cheat the weight, like you get so many guys doing it when they're weighing in and then putting on 25 pounds, someone like Chavez. So I can see why people want that enforced.
Adam, a question on you from CM from Dublin. Why was Holling so obsessed with the idea that Smith had a strategy last night? His strategy was to take the money and get through it.
Yeah, well, it probably was, and it was plain for all to see. But like I say, the Sky commentators weren't going to say that, were they? I think like I say, I turned the commentary off last night after about the fifth. But I think before that, they went as far as they could go without collecting a P45 on the way home. In criticising, they don't criticise any fighters, but slight negativity is the best we can hope for from the team. I actually tweeted when I first turned on and we had Broner. The Broner commentary was being done by my namesake, who doesn't normally do the commentary anymore. I was impressed with that, but obviously they went over to California, Dumb and Dumber on the mic. It was shocking to the extent where I just turned it off.
So listeners know, is there actually live boxing action on just now presented by Pretty Basic Champions network on NBC, I think the card's on actually. Sammy Vasquez is in action just now, and Francis Bartholomew against Antonio DeMarco is the main event. A couple more questions before we go into Bellew of the Week. Danny Robson, was Joe Gallagher right to throw in the towel because I thought Smith was just ready at that point to be let out the cage? I like that.
The fight could have gone on a few more rounds, I think. I wouldn't have objected.
George Reynolds, does Brooks store food in his cheeks like a hamster? hashtag chocolate brownies stored in my cheeks.
Where's Sean Bigby?
And the final question from Chad Hogan. Alex, is water retention one of life's main killers now?
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Excellent. I don't know what happened with my mic before. Obviously, it's not much of a killer because Paul Smith seems absolutely fine now, so his water retention certainly helped him. Hopefully, he's nice and healthy after his beating from Andre Ward, and hopefully he hasn't got diabetes or anything.
But this Vasquez fight seems to be pretty. I've been kind of fleetingly watching it back and forward. It's just kind of like stand in front of each other, toe to toe. Fucking good stuff, Steve.
Good fight, good
seems
fight,
to be pretty good, eh?
Mm-hmm.
Right, Bellew of the Week segment's coming up now.
Okay, what's the Bellew? up, and that's all I've got to say about that. Right. Let's do it right now. We can do it right now, you fucking rat. Okay, what's the value of the week?
Now, I've only got 3 nominations this week, guys, and I dare say some of you will maybe have some, but I've got a double nomination for Oscar De La Hoya. Now, De La Hoya at the press conference for Lemieux in Dam basically says this individual, he's pointing to Bernard Hopkins there, held this title for 13 years, I believe. That makes this fight, Lemieux against Ndam, truly history in the making. Have you heard some undiluted shit?
It's amazing what you can say when you're on coke, though, Andy.
Oh, I know. It's amazing what you can pull when you're on coke as well. I pulled my hamstring this night. It was fucking awful. Anyways, Andre Ward, he says that a lot of people thought Paul Smith won both Abraham fights. Well, he maybe pushed him close in the first fight, but I think he took a shot. Was it the 3rd, 4th or 5th round, I think it was. It was pretty early on in that second fight anyway, and Abraham had his way from there on in. And Oscar gets another nomination for saying he would come back to fight Triple... No, that's what it was. I got a double nomination for Oscar and Floyd. Oscar saying he would come back to fight Triple G, and Floyd for saying he would fight Oscar De La Hoya. And both seem to be saying they're not going to have that fight anymore. So that's only 3 nominations I've got this week, guys. Alex, you got anything to nominate?
Nothing off the top of my head. I know people have been throwing around a few nominations, and if they want to throw them up in the chat, that would be great.
Okay, Paul, you got anything, mate?
I don't know if you said it then, but about Floyd saying that he'd fight Berto or Mayfield. They were the two now. I mean, the Berto one, you can kind of go, oh, that's awful, and then Mayfield, you could go, fucking hell. I mean, there's not much you can say about that.
Yeah.
But
that's that bad. I've heard the Mayfield's name, but I couldn't tell you his first name even now. I don't even. What's he done in his life?
Kareem the Dream Mayfield. Not a lot. What he's done in his life is he knows who Floyd Mayweather is, and Floyd Mayweather knows who he is. So that means that you can tell the way Mayweather's talking about this fight for his 49. That he wants to fight. Fucking, he doesn't give a shit, does he? He's leaving Showtime. He's going to fight fucking anyone who wants to show up and pay for the payday, and then he'll do something decent for his 50th. But this fight, his next opponent, I don't even think it'll be Khan. It might be, but it could be Khan or someone worse.
Some are actually saying that this fight won't even happen in September. They're thinking maybe push it back until December. They basically put that date down to September 12th just so nobody else can take it. And to be honest, actually, he's kind of running out of time for an opponent because 21st of June, so he's got under 6-7 weeks or something before that date. Sorry, 8 weeks or something.
Yeah, I mean he should be announcing it now. I mean, a lot of people have said that there was a lot of rumours that the Khan thing was done. There's been a few bits saying that was definitely going to be the fight. But, I mean, he's announced fights late before. I think when he fought Guerrero, he announced that quite late. He just needs to get a bit of a move on. So he wants that September date to stop Oscar's real golden boy from taking that date up from him.
Steve, you got anything, mate?
I think that poor old Adrien Broner must feel like a bit of a loser today, so let's make him a winner and stick him in the Bellew of the week because his post-fight interview much car crash stuff. He didn't get the can man from what I heard, but let's throw Adrien in and cheer him up a bit.
Yeah, basically saying he was financially okay and his kids are okay. His kids must think he's an absolute embarrassment. I mean, I would actually be embarrassed if I was actually his son. I would actually want to go and kill myself, hang myself. I would probably even go on a missionary type thing and just go away and maybe help the poor in Africa or something like that, just so I get away from that walking abortion. I mean, look up the term eugenic in the dictionary, you'll see a picture of Adrien, age-ridden, no problem, cloner in there, definitely. Kurt, what you got, mate?
Was it? I believe it was Joe Gallagher in the corner. Didn't he say after about 7 rounds to Paul that his advice was, "Don't worry, Paul. He's going to get bored soon," or something like that. So you're hoping that Andre gets bored, and then maybe you'll be able to clock a few right hands on his jaw.
Well, we were getting bored, so it's a fair assumption.
I think the best example of it was when someone put that picture up of The Simpsons when Homer fought Frederick Tatum, and it was that thing of he'll tire himself. He's not going to tire himself out. He won't. You have to get him out of there. I think that was a perfect example of how that fight went.
And Adam, you got anything, mate?
Absolutely not.
Nothing whatsoever. Right, that being the case, then we've got Oscar De La Hoya with 2 nominations. We've got Adrien Broner, Joe Gallagher, Paul Smith and Andre Ward. Have I missed anybody out there?
I think that's a lot.
Okay. Alex, who's getting your winning vote this week?
I think it's a fairly obvious choice for myself this week. It's got to be Paul, the consummate professional, Smith, for the whole weight debacle, the whole non-effort against Andre Ward, the fact that he's a massive hypocrite and blamed, had a go, should I say, at Rocky Fielding, calling him totally unprofessional for his missed weight. And, yeah, just Paul Smith. He needs to win something nice.
Paul?
I was going to go with Smith, but like I said, the Bellew of the week is all about someone saying or doing something particularly stupid, and Andre Ward saying that everybody thought that a lot of people thought that Paul Smith beat Abraham in the rematch, a fight he's probably never watched, and a fight he wouldn't have watched at the time, I thought was just particularly stupid. So that gets my nomination this week.
Andre Ward for Paul. Kurt?
I'll go with Joe Gallagher for his Ward will get bored soon comments, I think. No, let's spread it out a bit.
Alright, could be a interim and a regular title could be getting handed out this week. Steve, who's getting your vote?
Yeah, I'm going to go with Kurt. I like the Joe Gallagher one. It's I love little comments like that. It's like letting him out the cage, isn't it? He's going to get bored soon, so Joe for me.
So it's 2-1-1. Adam?
I'm going for Cloner just for pure I don't know, just ballsy. So he just continues to give it the big and even though shit.
I'm going to give it to Broner as well. Actually, I think that makes him. Does that mean he wins it this week? I think those comments after the fight were absolutely brilliant. You know, just basically the way he talks, that everything's going to be fine in the end. You just know for a fact that he's going to be looking down the end of a fucking rifle at some point, looking to end his life because he's just made a complete and utter cock of it.
I think that's a tie, isn't it? It's a tie between Gallagher and Broner.
Is it a two-way? Okay,
Yeah,
so right, okay. Well, I'm going to pull rank this week, and I'm going to give Cloner the super title, and I'm going to give Joe Gallagher the regular title. So, Adrien Broner and Joe Gallagher, congratulations, sirs! You are the joint winner of the Bellew Week Award this week. Okay, right, what we're on at, I think we're running well over 2 hours, I think. Well, we're 1 hour 50, so we can discuss the fights coming up next week. Now, we've actually got a card from Liverpool next week. We've probably mentioned Callum Smith against Christopher Rabras for the WBC silver title, Rocky Fielding, Brian Vera, Tony Bellew against Lubis Suda. Who the fuck is that?
Sudacreme.
Sudacreme.
This guy actually got beat off Kudryashov in 2 rounds in Russia last March.
Yeah, I saw that fight.
So if Tony really carries power, then he better do it earlier. Adam, you want to take up anything on this card, mate? I mean, I know you're kind of being kind of Johnny part-time supporter just now, but you know.
Yeah, well, when you've been to Royal Ascot for 5 days and made a personal profit on all 5 of the days, different priorities take place. Right, just give me a minute and come back to me on Liverpool.
Okay.
I'll talk about Liverpool.
You go on press pass?
Do you know what? I'm not going up. Fozzie's going for us, so he'll be there. Like I said, I don't usually miss the Liverpool shows because they're quite good fun, and you can park easily, which is pretty much what I need when I want to go to a show.
Liverpool?
But no,
you want to park your car in Liverpool? Seriously?
Hey, John Lewis secure car park.
You're not kind of too attached to your wheels?
If you park at John Lewis Liverpool 1, you're fine. 'Cause it's secure car park. It's a bit expensive, but you know you're fine. You can just walk across.
No, lads, it's more than a bit expensive. It's the world's most expensive car park. That is, it's ridiculous.
This podcast is going to lose. This podcast.
Car park talk.
Such a family car.
But
this podcast isn't going to do well in Liverpool this week. Fucking hell.
Brian will hate this.
But back to the actual fights on the bill. Again, we've got this. I always hate the Miss Matchroom nickname. I think it's a bit of a simplified nickname, but we've got potentially some horrors. So you've got Martin Murray up against George Berashvili, 19-5-2. Big George Berashvili. That 8 rounds super middleweight. I think that'll go 8 rounds. I think that'll be horrendous. Tony Bellew.
Sorry, just on Murray, I remember he fought a similarly bad fight on the Ricky Hatton when he his last fight undercard, and that went the distance when it shouldn't have done. I think hopefully the Matchroom rocket is up Murray's backside and he performs well there. Murray's 1-100, Tony Bellew's 1-100, both against blokes I've never heard of. Callum Smith's 1-14, and Rocky Fielding versus Brian Vera. It's showing here that it's going to be on later, so I hope that's the main event because it's the most competitive.
The thing that winds me up about Martin Murray's opponent is that he's a Georgian, and he's not even the best Georgian super middleweight. He's the third best Georgian super middleweight in Georgia, and they couldn't get number 1, they couldn't get number 2, they had to get number 3. This absolute nobody who is he? Nobody. He's the third best in Georgia.
How do we know the Georgian super middleweights aren't reminiscent of the Watson, Eubank and Ben of Britain from the 90s? We just don't know, do we?
The problem is, like with guys like that, you always think, is there surely, for what they have to pay to get him over, flights, hotels, all of that faff, is there no British fighter that they could have said, look, here's 8 rounds of Martin Murray, knock yourself out? I mean, they've got him in because his record doesn't look too terrible, 19-5. But if you actually look at it, and like I said, I mean, for people that like going on BoxRec, and it's had a bit of a revamp, his last... Yeah, so his last 4 fights, basically, he won 3 of them against the guy who was 1-13, 1-12, 3-8. The fight he lost was against one who was 2-0. This is the kind of, and like you go back through his record again, previous 2 fights against guys with no wins, he beat them. Then he fought a guy who had a winning record and got beat over points. It's a shoddy, shitty matchup. And like I say, all that we'll get, and here's the Sky rhetoric, because actually it's easy to moan about Sky. If Callum Smith stops Rabras or does a better job than Groves does, it'll be Callum Smith will beat George Groves because he did Rabras quicker. Tony Bellew knocks out some nobody. Tony Bellew's ready for a world title. Rocky Fielding knocks out BKB's Brian Vera. It'll be right, well, he's now ready to step up to that level. They're all shit fights. The odds don't lie. And it's an abysmal card, but they've done 5,000 tickets again. They could fucking sell anything. People will just go to Matchroom shows no matter what.
Seriously, this is an Anthony Joshua Ray from doing 10,000, and they keep proving it by putting shit shows on normal Sky and selling tickets. The Newcastle, Birmingham, this week 5,000 for Rocky Fielding against Brian Vera.
Yeah, I mean, like, so who can blame him? Like I said, what if you're already heard and you're Neil Bowers, who does matchmaking shows? Why would you ever go to that much effort to make a strong B-side when you've got people who will just religiously rock up and they'll go to these shows? The motivation's not there, but like I said, the fans have got this. I think this could potentially be a real bag of shit card. And if Rabras doesn't show up, it's going to be terrible. I don't know what Vera will be like, but if the card is hinging on Rabras really coming to win, and if he doesn't, it's right down the tube.
Do you give Rabas a chance? Does anybody give Rabas a chance? Because I'm not sure Callum Smith is everything that he's cracked up to be. You know what? I think Rabas might give him a decent fight.
Rabas, he's okay. I mean, I would at best I would say he's a European level fighter. I mean, I wouldn't say he's a gatekeeper or anything like that to world level. I watched his 2 fights against Muhammad Ali and Ndai actually, and in the rematch he was impressive. Knocked him out in 4 rounds. I think the Groves fight, a lot of people I felt didn't really give Rabras a lot of credit for that because he showed a great chin, and a lot of people didn't really say. Well, I think they said at the time that Groves potentially, I think it might have been you, Adam, might basically be on the slide now.
Yeah, I think that. It was a comeback for Groves in that, wasn't it? But I mean, the one thing I would say about Callum Smith is that, as he's started to move up in level a little bit, his power has started to wane, or his knockout percentage has certainly dipped. So Rabras has already shown that he can be quite durable against Groves, even though Groves was pretty poor that night. So yeah, the clear comparison, it's a comparison opponent, and Matchroom use this tactic quite regularly, so we'll see how he gets on. But yeah, to have a card hinging on Christopher Rabras, as Paul says, is pretty poor from the outset.
I'm just saying though, Adam, if Callum Smith lands the big uns in the early rounds and Rabas doesn't go anywhere, I mean, we know Rabas is European level, but do we know what level Smith is yet? Like you said, he hasn't been knocking people out the further he's gone along. I haven't been that. I mean, he looks okay, but I mean, without the hype train, he's a decent prospect. But I'm
on the back
sold
end of
on him
that,
yet.
Well, the thing
end
is,
of that, if he does throw the big punches early, we could get another British stoppage. That's certainly not out of the question.
the thing is, he's already been slated in to fight Rocky Fielding for the vacant British title in September, I think. And if you look at his record, I would probably say, well, obviously the best win on it is that Nikolai against Skalocha from Serbia, Sejloka, sorry. Ever since he actually got beat last month, but he's even lost to Tyron Ziga as well from Germany, who's an up and coming German prospect. So how much stock he put into that victory, I don't know, but it's a good enough victory regardless. But as you say, we'll just need to wait and see where Smith is in the next 18 months. I mean, I think his British title fight's been a long time coming, and his brother's actually kind of held it hostage for a while, so good to see him maybe get his chance for it as well.
So that show's on Friday night then, not
It's
Saturday?
Friday night, Friday night for some odd reason, and I don't know what, if there's anything else on that, on the Saturday actually, but on Friday night also, I think it's on True TV, I think it is, Gilberto Ramirez faces Derek Edwards, and Diego Magdaleno faces the quitter from Puerto Rico, Jose A. Gonzalez. You remember this guy who actually quit against Ricky Burns while leading the fight, and that Derek Edwards was the guy that had Andre Durrell basically dancing like Bambi on ice in the last minute of their 12-round fight, I think it was. Now, Saturday has actually got a world title fight from Thailand. Amnet Rungrong faces off against John Real Casameoro for IBF flyweight title, and the only other card we've got next week is it Bradley against Vargas, is that it?
Yeah.
Is that a lot?
Well, there's Oscar Valdez against Ruben Tamayo as well. Not sure whether that's on the same card, but
that's on the same card.
I just noticed there, actually.
Fight, isn't it?
Just noticed there. So the question is, can Bradley stop Vargas? I mean, Bradley's talking about facing Golovkin up at 160. I really think Ruslan Provodnikov has actually rewired his brain if he is actually seriously contemplating that.
Well, I mean,
take it up.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's Bradley again has been highly inactive. He's a talented fighter, and he's obviously highly rated as well amongst fellow professionals and people more qualified journalists and experts than us. So it's poor that his career is almost stagnating, but he's not with the right promotional outfit to be getting the fights. But yeah, he should. I mean, Bradley should be winning. He's a strong favourite with the bookies, about nearly 1-4 on, so he should be winning. But it's not really. I won't be getting up this weekend. Put it that way.
Well, I stayed up last night for most of the fights. Kurt doesn't do it anymore. I think he's kind of shot, beyond shot, actually, staying up for his type of fights. But anybody getting pumped up for Bradley Vargas? I really think it might be it's going back in a boxing match, obviously, but I don't think it's going to be that great a fight, in all honesty.
Tim needs to win as well. I mean, officially, he hasn't got a win since Marquez. I mean, when was that? 2013, I believe, off the top of my head.
Yeah,
December 2013.
I mean,
October 2013.
I mean, I thought he beat Chavez, but he didn't look great in that fight, and I don't know. I mean, I've saw a lot of people saying they think he's on the slide now. I mean, I'm not sure. This performance will tell us everything, because you'd think, if Bradley's at his best, he'll beat Vargas, and I do think he will beat him, but it'll be interesting to see how effective he is and how good he looks. I mean, I'm expecting him to win a comfortable points decision. I can't see him stopping him. I mean, he just doesn't have the power, but yeah, he definitely needs a good performance after a few fights where he hasn't looked himself.
Yeah, I mean, Bradley's got one of the most underrated resumes in the sport today. You just think about it, he's had quite a few hard, tough fights. Maybe just is over that apex now, Steve.
Yeah, I think this fight might be okay, actually. The opponent Vargas, he looks okay. I haven't been blown away with him, but he's got some decent wins on his record over the last few years. I know the Alec Verdio fight was a good one. That could have gone either way, but he showed he's tough. He's got grit. He'll hang with Bradley. I agree with you on Bradley's resume. Bradley has got a very underrated resume. He's never ducked anybody, and he's always in fine shape, and give him his respect. Whether he's on the slide or not, I don't know. I think if he's not on the slide yet, he's definitely sort of heading that direction. I mean, he has showed a few flaws recently, but then, I mean, if you look at the level of opposition he's been fighting, he's been in against the very highest level of opponents, really, apart from Floyd Mayweather. I mean, he's bound to look a bit ragged in a few of these fights, but against Vargas, I think it'll just take him down that level, and he'll, if he's on his A game, be able to get the victory. But then, if he turns up and puts in a performance, even though I thought he beat Chavez, and he's sort of below par, then Vargas might have a chance. But I think the sound money would be on Bradley on points for me.
Bradley on points for the rest of you guys. I mean, I think we're close to wrapping up the show. Bartholomew against DeMarco, we're coming on shortly, so we'll keep it brief. Very briefly, Paul, Alex.
Yeah, I think that's probably the sensible bet to go. But like I said, Vargas has got a lot to gain from this fight. He's kind of been
gifted.
Gifted
the last. Was it Herrera? I think he fought in his last fight.
Was it DeMarco?
Who was he fought in his last fight?
Yes.
Benavidez fought Herrera.
Yeah, because he fought
Benavidez.
That's who it was. Sorry, I'm getting my names mixed up here.
Yeah, because Vargas was in with DeMarco, wasn't he? I mean, like I said, I think he's gone a little bit under the radar, but like I said, he beat the opposition that's put in front of him. He's not the most exciting fighter to watch in the world, but he does box nicely. I mean, neither man are known for their stoppages. I think Vargas has had like 8 or 9 stoppages out of 20-something fights, so he's not exactly a noted puncher. I think it will be a boxing match. I mean, Vargas is a big guy, and if he can get into a rhythm early and he can take a couple of rounds, you never know, because with Bradley, sometimes you just don't know what version of Tim Bradley's going to show up. The guy that beat Marquez, who boxed brilliantly from the off and just did fantastically well the whole fight, or the guy who goes life and death with Chavez, Provodnikov, and people who he should really be beating comfortably for the amount of ability that he's got. But yeah, I mean, I stayed up last night and I had about an hour. I almost missed the podcast tonight because I fell asleep for an hour, and I certainly won't be bothering staying up for that fight. That'll be definitely a one to record.
I think that's the thing, when you've been in 2 fights with Pacquiao and a fight with Marquez, he seems to be, when he's fighting down to his opposition, that's when you see, him in a bit of trouble. You saw it with Provodnikov. Chavez again, I thought he won, but he didn't look too great, so I think he's got to make sure, he doesn't take this guy lightly because, as you said, Vargas has got everything to gain from beating someone like Tim Bradley, who, holds officially wins over Marquez and Pacquiao. So, Bradley, it'd be good to see him get a win and, get back in the mix of the welterweight division, because obviously there's some great fights that we could see him in with, because he'll bring it against anyone.
Sorry, I was on mute there. I think that's probably an ideal point there to end the show, guys, unless anything else has cropped up you want to discuss.
Just congratulations to Frank Buglioni and good luck with his world title fight.
He's right. Non-world title fight, more like it. That's probably the least said about the better. But anyway, guys, I'd like to thank the panel. Donny Baseball briefly been on, Alex Morris, Paul Webb, Steve Wellens, Kurt Ward, Adam Smith. Thanks again to Mixler for holding up for the second week in a row, and it's good to hear Alex back on the show, no faulty mics, etc. I'd like to thank Paul McAllister for coming on, and all you guys on Twitter, etc. for sending the questions and stuff. For being your host, Andy Patterson. We'll see you next week. Have a good week. All the best.
Alex Morris, number 1 pound for pound ranter.